Hey guys, welcome to Green Bean Fiction. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Vigilante Deku had tech powers and had harem? Part 2, Final. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button, and there's a new hype feature in YT, so please hype this video. This story is Se los demostraré a todos by Geisha Negro 301. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Izuku, serious and calm. Calm down, Eri. Everything will be okay, he said calmly to reassure her, which worked a little. Izuku made, I think, with his black whip a kind of sack on his back to put Eri there, like a baby carrier, and then used the accumulation of power at 100% plus float plus fa Jin plus black whip, using it as a slingshot, and go at great speed towards overhaul. Chisaki, angry. Give me Eri. Shout to attack again with beaks. Izuku took advantage of his speed to do a Manchester smash, destroying the spikes. Chisaki, angry. If this continues, I'll lose and that guard will take Eri away. I won't allow it. He thought to take out of his pocket a small container that said, trigger. Chisaki desperately consumed what was in the small container, which confused Izuku a little until he remembered that there were rumors that he was responsible for selling drugs to increase the power of quirks. Izuku, surprised. This isn't good. He thought. Chisaki began to tremble for a few seconds, then touched the floor with both hands, creating a trail of destruction. This took Izuku by surprise, but thanks to the danger sensor he was able to dodge it in time. Izuku, worried and serious, Eri, are you okay? I asked, still looking at Chisaki. This only received a yes from her, and with this clarified, he decided to raise the power accumulation to 175%, where he gained great speed to continue the fight, attacking left and right. They continued fighting until someone appeared. Shin, surprised. Sir, what are you? I asked, shouting, but was interrupted. Chisaki, desperate. Shut up, he screamed, going at great speed towards Shin and using his quirk on him to fuse. Chisaki, angry and serious. I'm going to kill you, Vigilante. But first, I have a question. What is your quirk? I asked, activating Shin's quirk in Izuku. Izuku, serious, I am. He was interrupted when he put a bit of black whip in his mouth to keep from talking. I remember that he has a team under his command called the 8 Bullets, and that guy has a quirk that forces me to tell him the truth. I must be careful with that when Overhaul asks me things, he thought. Chisaki, angry. Damn. He knows what Shin's quirk is. If I can't find out his quirk, then I'll have to erase it, he thought, and then quickly ran and attacked Izuku. Chisaki attacked Izuku with his new arms, forcing him to dodge and block the attacks, but Izuku was not far behind, taking advantage of every opportunity he had to counterattack. Chisaki, angry. Not knowing his quirk is becoming very problematic, so I will have to erase his quirk. Even though I know he could dodge it with his quirk, he won't be able to dodge it if I make him think that I will erase Eri's quirk, and if I really erase Eri's quirk it won't matter anyway. I already have too much of his blood, he thought. He again placed his hands on the floor, creating too many spikes in all directions where Izuku was forcing him to move constantly. Chisaki took advantage of his distraction to throw the eraser bullet towards Eri. Izuku, seeing this, used his body to protect Eri from the eraser bullet. Izuku, a little sore. Even though the bullet is to erase quirks and I don't have any, it doesn't take away the fact that it's a bullet and it hurts, he thought. Chisaki, arrogant. Finally erase your quirk, he thought victoriously, until he heard a small laugh coming from Izuku. What are you funny about? He asked, now annoyed. Izuku quickly fired a black whip towards Chisaki's face, temporarily blinding him. I take advantage of the distraction to start activating the fa Jin plus float plus minting power at 175% to gain acceleration to punch Chisaki in the face. Seconds later, Chisaki finally removes the black whip from his face. Chisaki, desperate. How come? He couldn't keep thinking because he received a right hook from Izuku at 200%. This sent him flying, crashing into a wall and knocking it down in the process, where another member of the 8 Bullets was. Rikia, worried. Mr. Chisaki, are you okay? He said to try to help him up. Chisaki, in pain. Stop talking. He said to use his forearms and touch him to reactivate his quirk. Meanwhile, with Izuku. Izuku, a little tired, I think. I've already beaten him. Now I must. He could not continue speaking when he saw how the wall that Chisaki broke appeared. the aforementioned but with a new appearance. Izuku, annoyed. This must be a joke, he said looking at Chisaki. Chisaki, angry. You don't understand, the world is sick of quirks as well as heroes, and Eri is the cure. Her purpose in life is to hurt others, and her quirk is proof of that. Shout. This angered Izuku immensely. How could he say such horrible things about a small, innocent girl? But he knew he had to calm down, otherwise he'd be an easy target if he let his anger get the better of him. Izuku, serious, I'm tired of this, he said to activate the power accumulation to 300% plus FA Jin. I thought about what was necessary, from 139 to 305, more or less. Izuku, serious, I must use all the energy I can bear, whisper. With that said, I use the power build-up at 300% plus flowed to go to where Chisaki was. Chisaki, seeing that Izuku was approaching him, created too many spikes, but Izuku dodged them without problems. Chisaki, realizing this, threw a punch towards Izuku, but he was able to stop it. When Izuku stopped the attack, he quickly gave Chisaki a punch to the chin so powerful that it sent him flying out of his lair and into the street. Not only that, but due to this, it caused the people in the neighborhood to wake up only to see Izuku fight Chisaki, causing them to start calling out for the heroes in an agitated manner. Izuku continued attacking Chisaki with a flurry of blows, allowing him to block Izuku's attacks even though his stamina was running low. Chisaki, fed up with this, began desperately trying to punch Izuku, which he could barely dodge due to the size difference. The green-haired man saw an opportunity and kicked him again with a powerful kick, which sent Chisaki flying through the air. Chisaki, angry. Just give me Eri, don't play the hero. Shout. He used his quirk again to transform his arms and legs into monstrous forms. Izuku, angry. If I can't save a problem girl, WHO is within my reach then, he said, and then gave him a powerful burst of blows, destroying Chisaki's arms in the process so that Chisaki could see how Izuku's figure looked imposing, preparing a punch. How am I going to keep my promise? I shout to give him the final blow and knock out Chisaki. With Chisaki defeated, Izuku was very tired, but he could hear the police patrols approaching where he was at that moment. This bothered Izuku a little, and he knew that with his condition he couldn't go that far, so he used his black whip to climb onto the roof of a house to hide there. Once he finished doing this, the police and a few minutes later the heroes Eraserhead, Endeavor and Ryukyu will arrive at the place. Endeavor, serious. What happened here? I ask, looking at the police officers. Police, calm. We were informed that Kurai Atami was fighting a villain in this place, said Endeavor, serious. And where is Kurai Atami, or the villain? Asked. Police, calm. Kurai Atami seems to have escaped, but the villain is over there. He pointed to a large trail of destruction that led to Chisaki's house, hideout, where he was out cold. Endeavor, upon seeing Chisaki, was able to recognize him as one of the most wanted villains at the same level as the League of Villains. He remembered him because he had heard rumors that he was responsible for selling the drug, Trigger. When he finished looking at Chisaki, he could see a huge hole in the ground that led to Chisaki's underground lair. Endeavor, seeing this, approached Eraserhead and Ryukyu, informing them of what the policeman told him and what he saw, surprising the aforementioned upon receiving all this information. Aizawa began to think about why Izuku went after Overhaul, but unfortunately he didn't come to a concrete conclusion. He would have continued thinking if it weren't for the fact that he felt someone was watching them, so he used signs to warn his companions, who understood. Izuku, annoyed. Damn. They know I'm here. He thought to use his black whip again plus 75% power accumulation and then jump to escape. The three heroes realized this, and Endeavor launched a burst of fire that Izuku had to dodge with the danger sensor, and then saw how Endeavor and Ryukyu in his dragon form went after him. Ryuko, serious and confused. What is that on your back? He thought in the form of a question. Ryukyu couldn't identify what was on her back from a distance, so she flew a little faster to get closer until she could see a small shape with long blue-white hair. After a few seconds of thinking, she came to the conclusion that it was a girl, which surprised her. Ryuko, surprised. Endeavor. Kurai Atami seems to have a knee. He couldn't finish speaking because he saw Endeavor launch a burst of fire more powerful than the previous one. Meanwhile, with Izuku, his danger sensor warned him of the blast, so he turned around and quickly used Delaware Smash Air Force to repel the blast. Ryuko, angry. Endeavor the watchman has a girl, be careful. Shout. This surprised Endeavor, but a few seconds after understanding he just nodded. Izuku, serious, Eri, are you okay? You're not hurt? He asked in a whisper. Eri, nervous, why yes, I'm fine, and where are we going? He said the first and last thing as a question. Izuku, serious, I'm going to take you to a safe place where they'll take good care of you, don't worry, I promise I'll visit you, but you must promise not to tell anyone who I am, please. Whisper. In response he only said, yes, and with this clarified Izuku activated the smokescreen to distract the heroes while he continued swinging at high speed and finally losing sight of the heroes. Meanwhile with Izuku and Eri had arrived at their destination, which was the UA Academy, where Izuku used his black whip again to pass the walls of the UA, although what Izuku had informed was that Director Nezu always stayed working from time to time in the early mornings in his office because of the amount of paperwork he receives. With this idea in mind, it took him minutes to find a way to enter the academy undetected, and he went to the door of the principal's office and then started knocking. Nezu found it strange since he wasn't expecting visitors. He was thinking that maybe he was just imagining it, or it could be a teacher. No matter what, his curiosity ended up winning him over, so he responded with a pass, letting Izuku and Eri pass. Izuku, seriously, how about it, Director Nezu, said. This surprised Nezu, although he didn't expect visitors, but of all the possibilities he didn't think that the vigilante most wanted by the heroes was in his school and now in his office, but after a few seconds he returned to his usual attitude. Nezu, happy. What brings you here, Kurayatami? Asked. Izuku, serious, Director Nezu, I need your help with something, said. Nezu, happy. And how exactly could I help you? Asked. After this question Izuku carefully lowered Eri from his back, and the aforementioned was taking Izuku's right hand while hiding behind him. Nezu, happy. And who is this little girl? Asked Izuku, serious. She is Eri. She was a prisoner of the leader of the Yakuza Kaichisaki, better known as Overhaul, and he is responsible for spreading the drug trigger throughout the country, said. Nezu, surprised. Wow. And why do you think Overhaul had Eri? Asked. Izuku, serious. Overhaul said that Eri was the cure for quirks, so that means he loved her for her quirk, and honestly I never asked her because I thought it would be a sensitive subject for her, but I could notice that she has a horn sticking out of her head, said. Nezu, happy. I see. Said Izuku, serious. I need your help and the UA to take care of her, and it may take a while for her to trust them, but I want them to give her as close to a normal life as possible. He said, stroking Eri's head carefully. Nezu, happy. And that's why you brought her here, concluded. Izuku, serious. That's right, he said, and then looked at Eri. Eri, I'm going to leave you with the heroes, and he was interrupted by a hug from Eri. Eri, sad. Please don't leave me alone. What if they hurt me or I hurt them? He said and asked the last thing, starting to let out small tears. Izuku just started petting Eri's head while reciprocating the hug. Izuku, calm. Don't worry, nobody's going to hurt you and you're not going to hurt anyone else either. Remember what I told you before you arrived? I promised I'd visit you. He said the first thing out loud and the last thing as he whispered. Eri calmed down with the caresses and the hug, and Izuku was right. He promised her that he would visit her, and with that cleared up, she simply stopped crying. With everything cleared up, Izuku stayed with Eri until she fell asleep and carefully left her on the sofa in the office. Izuku, serious. Well, Eri will stay at UA and please take good care of her, said. Nezu, happy. So be it, said Izuku, serious. Okay, I have to go now. Goodbye, Director Nezuhe said before exiting through one of the windows of the director's office and beginning to swing with the black whip stealthily to the bedrooms to finally reach his room. Izuku, tired. What a night. He whispered to change his clothes and throw himself into his bed to finally sleep. The next day, the sun's rays invaded Izuku's room. He on the other hand wanted to continue sleeping, but he knew he couldn't do that since he has classes. So with all the strength, laziness, he had at that moment, he got out of bed and got ready to go to his classes and in the process create a new invention to help heroism classes or something like that. A few moments later, Izuku was already in his classes until a loudspeaker was heard throughout the school. Nezu, happy. Izuku Midoriya, please report to the principal's office, he said through the loudspeaker. This puzzled Izuku since he didn't know why they were calling him. He thought of all the possibilities but only had one. This worried him a lot since the only possibility he thought was that he was discovered. Izuku, calm, Professor, can I? He was interrupted. Majima, calmly. If you can go, said Izuku, calm. Thank you, He said before leaving the classroom and heading to the principal's office. As Izuku walked to the principal's office, he tried to act as calm as possible to avoid raising further suspicions. When I got to the office, I knocked on the door, and on the other side Izuku heard a pass. Nezu, happy. Welcome Izuku Midoriya, you can have a seat, said. Izuku, calm. Thank you, Director Nezu, and why did you call me? He said, and the last thing was a question. Nezu, happy. It seems to me that you have a small problem which I think you already know what it is, said. Izuku, confused. What do you mean, Director? Asked. After a few seconds of silence, the director only gave a small sigh before changing his happy face to a serious one. Nezu, serious. I know it's the vigilante Kurai Atami. Please don't try to lie, because if you do I'll assume it's you and they'll send you to Tartarus, he said in a threatening manner. With that said, the green-haired man just remained silent, trying to find a way out of this problem, but he couldn't, so he just sighed heavily and changed his face from confused to serious. Izuku, serious. How did you find out? I asked, looking at the director. At Izuku's response, the director returned to his previous face. Nezu, happy. I'm glad you admitted and answering your question. We may have never interacted directly, but thanks to the recordings of the sports festival and with our conversion from hours ago, I was able to recognize your voice almost instantly. Although I did not want to settle for just that, so I decided to check your medical file to know your quirk, but your file said that you were quirkless. Also, I checked your height with the vigilantes and both matched. I continued looking for more evidence, realizing that days before the attack on the USJ, some pieces from the support workshop were no longer there. Some had said that someone must have taken them to modify a hero suit, but checking the history of the suits, no one received the modifications with the pieces that disappeared. And to make sure of this part, let's say that I sent some videos of the vigilante to some friends on Island to verify it. In the end, they told me that they were the same pieces that disappeared from the workshop. Do you want me to continue, or do you have any other questions? He said everything as if nothing had happened, and the last thing was a question. Izuku was in shock by all the information the director told him about him. Although he knew he was talking to the most intelligent creature in the world, it still didn't cease to surprise him. Izuku, seriously, I know I already admitted it was me, but how could he be sure it was really me and not some kind of imposter or something? And what's he going to do now that he knows I'm the most wanted vigilante in the country? Asked. Nezu, happy. Answering your first question, Eri was still here a while ago, and when she woke up she seemed like she wanted to sleep more, but she asked questions like, where am I? Where is the green-haired boy? And thanks to that clarification I was able to make sure it was you in your second question. The truth is I lied about the Tartars part. One couldn't do it because you are mainly a minor, also because you are not really breaking the law as such, even though the heroes think that they do believe you have a quirk and that's why they consider you a criminal, but you are not really doing anything bad. Besides, you have done many things for the UA and for my students, and lastly I have a question, who else knows that you are the vigilante? He said, and the last thing was a question. Izuku, hearing this explanation of how Eri accidentally betrayed him because of the dream, made a big drop of sweat come out, but after hearing her second answer he felt relieved, but still maintaining his serious attitude. Izuku, serious, I see. And answering your question, do Katsuki Bakugo, Melissa Shield, Recovery Girl, All Might, you and Eri know? By the way, where is Eri now? Asked. Nezu, happy. Well, when Aizawa returned from patrolling UA, I explained to him that you gave us a night visit with Eri and that I promised you that we would take care of her, so he, along with Class 1A and the Big Three, offered to take care of her, said. Izuku, a little calmer. Sigh of relief, at least I know she'll be okay, he said with a small smile. Nezu, happy. I see that you care a lot about her. May I know why? I asked with great curiosity. Hearing this, Izuku began to think for a few seconds until he came to a conclusion. Izuku, calm. I guess Eri reminds me of myself when I was a child, although one difference would be that I had my mother in difficult times and she didn't. I think I want to be that person for her, concluded. Nezu, happy. So you want to be like his father? I asked with a smile, looking at the green-haired man. Izuku didn't expect this question, but with everything he said, it would make sense if he thought about it, which brought a small smile to his face. Izuku, calm. Well, I think that's a good way to look at it, said Nezu, happy. Do you want to go see her? Asked Izuku, quiet, with pleasure said. Nezu, happy. Okay, now you can go back to your classes, when they finish come back here to see me said. Izuku, calm. It's okay said. With that said, Izuku left the principal's office and returned to his classes. After school. When classes ended, Izuku went to the principal's office where the mouse, dog, bear was waiting for him. Personally, I think Nezu is like a mutant mouse. I don't see much or anything like the dog or bear XD. And so both student and principal went on their way to the dorms of Class 1A. Class 1A dormitories. Izuku and Nezu were standing at the entrance where Nezu looked at Izuku. Nezu, happy. Please wait here, I want it to be a surprise for her said. Izuku, calm. Okay said. Nezu entered the dorms where Izuku was waiting at the entrance. Inside the dorms, the vast majority of Class 1A, Bakugo, Tokiyami, Mineta, and Aoyama were not there, were in the main room along with Eri, who only had a shy face while drinking apple juice. Nezu, happy. Greetings Class 1A, I'm here to give you a surprise visit, said. Class 1A, only those who were there, surprised, Principal Nezu. What are you doing here? They asked. Nezu, happy. I'm here to visit little Eri, he said looking at Eri. Eri, shy. Is it Mr. Mouse? I asked innocently. This seemed funny to some of the students and cute to others because of Eri's innocence. Nezu, happy. I'm not Mr. Mouse, I'm the director of UA and I've come to tell you that you have a surprise visitor waiting for you at the entrance, said. Saying this, some looked at the entrance doors which were closed but they could see a silhouette of someone outside. Eri, confused. Does anyone want to see me? Asked. Melissa, curious. Can I go too? Asked Nezu, happy. Of course he said, and then Melissa and Eri followed him to the exit of the bedrooms. Izuku was still waiting until he saw the doors open and revealing Nezu, Eri and Melissa. The truth is the green-haired boy was not expecting the latter, which surprised him a little, but he focused more on Eri, and when she saw Izuku she was surprised, so instinctively she gave him a hug which Izuku bent down to be at Eri's height, reciprocating the hug. Eri, surprised. Are you the green-haired boy? I'm sorry but I never knew your name, he said, lowering his head. Izuku, calm. Don't worry little one, my name is Izuku, he said as he continued to hug her and began to caress Eri's head. Melissa was surprised by Eri and Izuku's interaction. Did they already know each other? That's what she wondered. Although Aizawa told them that the guard saved Eri and left her at UA so she'd be safe, he didn't think that Eri knew he was the guard. Melissa, surprised. Do you already know each other? Asked. Izuku, calm. That's right, we met yesterday when we went our separate ways. While I was walking I met her, he said looking at Melissa still stroking Eri's head. With this information, Melissa began to understand what happened. With what she knew about Aizawa and now with what she told Izuku, she now understood why they got along well. Melissa, calmly, I see, they get along well, he said with a smile watching Izuku and Eri's interaction. Nezu, happy. That's right, and the truth is that Midoriya seems to want to be like Eri's dad, he said, and this surprised Melissa. Melissa quickly looked at Izuku who had a small blush. Eri, confused. Dad? What is that, Izuku? I asked innocently looking at Izuku. Izuku, a little nervous. Well Eri, a father is someone who cares for, educates, supports, protects and makes the child happy, said. Eri, curious. So you want to be my dad? Asked Izuku, calm. It's no problem for me, but I want to know if you want me to be your dad, he said continuing to caress Eri's head. Eri, shy. Well. When I met you and hugged you I felt safe. You also kept your promise to save me, so I have no problem with you being my dad, said. This brought a smile to Izuku's face. Nezu, happy. Okay Midoriya, now all that's left is for you to get him a mom, he said as if nothing had happened. Melissa, surprised. Mom? He thought, looking at Izuku, who, upon feeling Melissa's gaze, turned to look at her, which caused them both to blush. They would have continued like that if they hadn't seen Eri making noises. Izuku, confused. Eri, what are you doing? Asked. Eri, sad. I'm sorry, but I can't smile, said. This surprised Melissa and Izuku, but the latter felt frustrated since he could have saved her, but she is still tormented by the damage Chisaki did to her. But Melissa came up with an idea. Melissa, determined, "Director, please, can Eri come to the cultural festival?" he asked, waiting for the director's answer. Nezu, happy, "That's an excellent idea," Shield said. Izuku, calm, "Sounds good to me," said. Eri, confused, "Cultural festival? What's that?" he asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku, calm, "A cultural festival is a party created by the school where they organize events, food stalls, among many other things," said. Melissa, happy, "Yes. They can also have caramel apples," he said, looking at Eri. Eri, confused, "Caramel apple?" asked. Izuku, calm, "A caramel apple is like a kind of candy," said. Eri, excited, "A sweet," he said, wanting to try it. Melissa, happy, "Ah, how beautiful," he thought, looking at Eri. Izuku, calm, "And what do you think, Eri? Do you agree to go to the cultural festival?" asked. Eri, shy, "It seems like they're really determined for me to come. Those guys and you have been nice to me. And I'd like to get to know them better," said. Melissa, happy, "Is that a yes?" asked. Eri just nodded. Nezu, happy, "Well, it's decided Eri will be able to come to the cultural festival," he said, cheering up Melissa and Izuku. "Just one more thing," he said, drawing Melissa and Izuku's attention. "If some villain or a fake emergency activates the UA alarm, the cultural festival will be cancelled. Now if you excuse me, I must return to my office," concluded. With that said, Nezu left the dorms. Izuku on the other side stayed interacting with Eri and Melissa until the aforementioned invited Izuku to the dorms, including Eri. After entering the dorms, Mina approached Melissa. Mina, curiosity, "Hey Melissa, who was the person the director was talking about?" He couldn't finish when he saw Izuku next to Eri and remembered Izuku when he saw him talking to Melissa. Mina remained silent, seeing mainly Izuku until a conclusion came to her head. Mina, happy, "Hey Melissa." He approaches Melissa and Izuku. "I didn't know that." He puts his left arm on Melissa's neck and his right arm on Izuku's neck. "Would you bring your boyfriend here?" he said, looking at Melissa with an untrustworthy smile. This made Melissa blush as well as Izuku, who moved away from Mina while both shook their heads several times, making Mina laugh. After this embarrassing moment for Melissa and Izuku, Izuku began to interact more with Eri in Class 1A, who already knew him for being the winner of the sports festival. And so Izuku spent a good while getting along with the entire Class 1A. Also in that time, Bakugo had arrived to the room where they began to chat about random things, where he surprised everyone with his interaction. Hours later, it was already dark and Izuku was already leaving the dorms of Class 1A back to his dorm, but he heard Melissa's voice, making him turn around to see her. Izuku, calm, "Hello Melissa, what's up?" he asked, looking at her. What he could see is she had a small blush. Melissa, nervous, "Hi. When the festival is over, would you like to go on a date with me?" he said, playing with his fingers without seeing Izuku. Izuku, despite being the most wanted vigilante in the country, despite defeating the symbol of evil, and facing several villains, but deep down inside him, he is still a boy with little experience with girls, even more so when they are direct with him. Izuku, nervous, Well, it's fine with Meihei said, stuttering and blushing. This made Melissa so happy that she said goodbye to Izuku with a kiss on the cheek. Izuku turned red as a tomato and then walked away, touching his cheek. Days later. These days the whole UA was preparing for the cultural festival. Also Izuku went to visit Eri at the dorms of Class 1A, where their father and daughter relationship began to emerge, and this was noticed by the vast majority of Class 1A, which seemed strange to them at first, but after a while they found it nice. If you're wondering what Izuku is going to do for the festival, it turns out he created 3 virtual reality headsets that include games inside them as well as interactive gloves. Class 1A had the same idea about the manga and the anime. Cultural Festival Day. It also happened when Gentle and Brava tried to enter the UA but were stopped by Melissa, but she didn't have any invention, she simply used her fingers to replicate Izuku's Delaware Smash Air Force. Eri was holding Izuku's hand, being guided to the Class 1A function where she could see the whole show being carried by Izuku. It starts at 2:13 and then they advance it to 3:09, ending at 3:32. I hope I was specific XD. And one last, Melissa as Izuku and Izuku as Tagata. Izuku, happy, it really worked, are you seeing Melissa? Eri smiled, he thought, letting out a tear of joy when he saw his daughter happy. A little while later, the concert had ended and Class 1A was putting away the materials they used until Izuku arrived carrying a happy Eri. Different Felice Melissa, he said, drawing the attention of the aforementioned. You and your friends were amazing. At first, I was a little scared when the lights went out, but then I saw them moving and the lights in. She said enthusiastically, raising her arms still being carried by Izuku. Melissa shed a tear of joy when she saw that the concert worked. At first she didn't understand why, but Melissa clarified it for her. When they finished talking, Melissa continued helping to put away the materials, and once she finished her part, she went with Izuku and Eri to enjoy the festival until it got late, where the three of them went to the dormitories of Class 1A to drop off Melissa and Eri, although to the little girl's surprise she received a surprise from her dad. Casual clothes for Izuku and they are behind the bedroom door. Izuku, happy, surprise Eri, he said, taking out a caramel apple, surprising the little girl and Melissa. Melissa, surprised, where did you get them? I didn't see them at the festival, asked Izuku, happy, I made it myself in case there weren't any, and I also borrowed some ingredients from your partner Sato, said. While mentioning this, Eri had taken a bite to taste it and was fascinated by the flavor. Eri, happy, that's so sweet. Thanks, Dad, he said with a smile. Hearing Eri's last comment really surprised Izuku, because when she called him she referred to him by his name, but hearing her call him Dad made him very happy. Izuku, happy, you're welcome daughter, he said, stroking Eri's head with a smile. This seemed like a nice moment to Melissa, who stood there watching. Eri, happy, Dad, I have a question, said Izuku, confused. And what is it? Asked Eri, confused. If you're my dad, does that mean Melissa is my mom? I asked innocently. Melissa and Izuku looked at each other and blushed a lot until Izuku came up with something. Izuku, a little nervous, Eri, where do you know what a mom is? Asked Eri, happy, I learned it from the girl Rosamina. I told her that you explained to me what a dad is and she told me that a dad needs a mom, as she also taught me what a mom is, said Izuku, calm, and she's small? Asked Eri, happy, she told me that a dad and a mom love each other very much, and that the mom always makes sure the children are happy just like the dad, and that Melissa does that. So does that mean Melissa is my mom? He asked, looking at both of them. Izuku, upon understanding everything, had a small blush and a great desire to hunt Mina for sport at that moment, while Melissa, on the other hand, had a big blush but had a smile and carefully carried Eri. Melissa, happy, of course, little one, she said with a soft and motherly tone, which made Eri happier and surprised Izuku with her response, but he didn't complain. After this, Eri entered the dorms, leaving only Melissa and Izuku, who were still a little blushed. Izuku, a little nervous, so, you're his mom now? He asked, looking at her. Melissa, embarrassed, sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. Besides, I wouldn't mind actually being your mother, he said, playing with his fingers. After a few seconds of silence, Melissa thought she had messed up, but she didn't expect to receive a hug from Izuku, surprising her. Izuku, calm, don't worry. I don't mind that you're his mother either, he said, and a few seconds later he separated. Also, we still have a pending appointment. Since we have these days off, tomorrow will be the appointment. Does that sound okay to you? He said, looking at her. Melissa, nervous, clear, said. Izuku, happy, okay. See you, he said, and then left on his way to his bedroom. The next day, Class 1A dormitories, 5 p.m. Izuku was walking at a slow pace because he was nervous to the dormitories of Class 1A. Once he was at the door, he touched it where it was opened by Mina. Izuku, upon seeing who it was, remembered what Eri told him yesterday and gave him a calm look, but with an enormous instinct he killed coming out of him, scaring Mina. If she had continued like that, Mina would have had a heart attack. But Melissa arrived accompanied by Eri, where they interacted a little, and then Izuku went out with Melissa on their date. Melissa, a little nervous, you look good, he said, looking at him. Izuku, happy, thank you, you look beautiful, I see you're wearing the clothes you bought last time, said, smiling, looking at her. Melissa, a little nervous, thank you, and where are we going? Asked Izuku, calm. I was thinking that we could go to a park and spend some time to reset. Melissa, happy. That sounds good. He said and then took her hand and started walking. Let's go. Said. And so the unofficial couple walked hand in hand to the park, where upon arriving they sat on a bench where they began to talk for a while, enjoying the tranquility. They were talking about how things have been going for them these days, among other things, until Melissa's stomach rumbled, embarrassing her and making Izuku laugh a little. Izuku, happy and calm, how about we go eat? He proposed by shaking Melissa's hand. Melissa, embarrassed, why Yeshe said, taking Izuku's hand, and then both of them walked to a restaurant. It took them about half an hour to get to the restaurant they were thinking of. When they entered the restaurant, they were quickly welcomed, given a table and a menu so they could order their food. Izuku, even with all the pain in his soul, decided just this once to eat something other than katsudon, so he decided to order a steak with a salad, and Melissa ordered the same. They continued chatting while they waited for the food. After 20 minutes what they ordered arrived. They both began to savor the food and liked it a lot. After a few minutes they finished eating, but Izuku had his cheeks stained with meat remains, making Melissa laugh a little, confusing Izuku. Izuku, confused, what's wrong? I asked, looking at her. Melissa, happy, you have pieces of meat on your cheeks. Said, let me clean you up. He said to take a cloth napkin and wipe it delicately. They remained silent for a few seconds until Melissa finished cleaning it, but they both stared into each other's eyes until they realized this and pulled away, blushing. With everything settled, Izuku paid for the food, even though Melissa said it wasn't necessary for him to pay his share, but he did, where they finally left the restaurant realizing that it was already getting dark. Izuku, calm, well, I think it's time to. He was interrupted by Melissa. Melissa, happy. Izuku, aim. He said, pointing to a fair. Can we go? Please. She said it in a very similar way as a little girl would do it. Izuku, seeing her attitude, thought she was cute, so he agreed to let them go to the fair, where they rode several mechanical rides until Izuku and Melissa had the same idea, although neither of them knew. Izuku, calm. Melissa, do you want to go up there? He asked, pointing at the Ferris wheel. Melissa, happy, of course, said. With this clarified, they paid and both went up to a booth where the game began to move, staying at the highest part where they were preparing to confess their feelings. Izuku, a little nervous. Calm down, Izuku. Midoriya, you have faced many dangerous things. How difficult is it to confess? I was thinking, giving myself courage. Melissa, a little nervous. Calm down, Melissa, you can do it, he thought, giving himself courage. Izuku, Melissa, un poco nervios, Melissa. Izuku. They fell silent when they saw that they spoke at the same time. I. The same thing happened again until the two of them started laughing. Melissa, happy, sorry, you first, he said, giving the floor to Izuku. Izuku, calm. Thank you. What I wanted to say was that since I met you, you have seemed like someone very interesting to me, someone full of courage, kindness. You are intelligent and beautiful, he said, blushing and making Melissa blush. What I mean by all this is. He remained silent while still blushing and took a deep breath. Who he was interrupted by Melissa. Melissa, embarrassed. Do you want to be my boyfriend? I asked, blushing for a second. Later Izuku will let out a small laugh. Izuku, embarrassed. Hey, I wanted to say that, he said, covering his face. Melissa, happy. Sorry, I'll let you say it, she said with a little blush. Izuku, happy. Okay, Melissa, would you like to be my girlfriend? I asked, slightly blushing. Melissa, happy. Yes, he said, and then took Izuku's cheeks and planted a kiss on his lips, surprising him, but he began to reciprocate the kiss. They both continued kissing with love, and even though it was a clumsy kiss due to their inexperience, it had love. They continued like that until they ran out of oxygen. Izuku, Melissa, happy, I love you, they said at the same time. With this, the now official couple were returned to Ua, where Izuku left Melissa at the entrance of the Class 1A dorms and returned to his dorm, where he lay down on his bed and then sighed with a small smile touching his lips. Izuku, happy. What a great day. Whisper. After saying this, he decided to take a short nap, since he had to go on patrol later and it would be inconvenient not to rest. So he just fell asleep and woke up 4 hours later, which by the way was midnight when he woke up. Izuku slowly got up to start stretching and then put on his vigilante suit. When he finished doing all this he just sighed. Izuku, calm. Well, as they would say in Mexico. Let's get to work. He whispered all this before sneaking out the window and swinging away with the black whip. Izuku, serious. Well, now I have to find where the League is to finish them off. Unfortunately, Frankenstein. And the crazy vampire. We haven't been able to contact each other, but if I did, maybe Shigaraki would discover them. Although now that I think about it, if Shigaraki discovers them, they could easily kill him anyway. That would take a weight off my shoulders. I guess he thought as he continued swinging, thinking of different possibilities to find the League. Izuku continued with his usual routine, stopping villains, running away from heroes, Eraserhead, which was common in his nights as a vigilante. Izuku, calm. Well, I think I can take a 5-minute break and then I'll continue with my work. He thought to stay on top of a building where he closed his eyes and began to remember everything that had happened to him recently in these days. He began to remember the most relevant things, for him, like how he saved Eri from Chisaki, when he saw her smile, Eri calling him Dad, and finally his date with Melissa, and they confessed their feelings and became boyfriend and girlfriend. The latter brought a smile to Izuku's face, although it couldn't be seen because of his mask. When he realized that 5 minutes had passed, he was going to fire his black whip, but his danger sensor activated and he took a great leap with the accumulation of power at 50% to dodge a huge flame. Once in the air, he used his black whip as a projectile, hitting his attacker in the face to land on the same roof as before, looking at who attacked him. Izuku. Serious. Hello again, Endeavor, or should I call number 1, asked. Enji, angry and serious. I'm tired of your stupid game. She uses his fire to remove the black whip from his face. Now give yourself up by good means or it will be by bad means. After saying, bad, his right hand began to create a fireball. Izuku, serious. We know what the answer is, said. After saying those words they were preparing to fight, but neither of them waited for Endeavor to be quickly attacked by what seemed like a Izuku, serious. He's a Nomu, but he has something different. He whispered, watching as the Nomu's attack sent Endeavor flying, and then looked at the Nomu's appearance. Izuku, although he wanted to take advantage of this distraction to escape from Endeavor, knew from the way he saw the Nomu's attack that it could eventually kill Endeavor, and it would be very bad for Japan to lose the new symbol of peace. The green-haired man only sighed before activating the black whip plus floating plus 150% power accumulation and going at great speed towards the Nomu, giving it a powerful attack that unfortunately only made it retreat a few meters. Izuku, serious, interesting. Maybe it's just as strong as the Nomu they used against All Might. He thought. Karen scans the Nomu. He ordered. Karen followed the order and began scanning the Nomu, giving results seconds later. Karen, calm. Sir, the Nomu seems to have approximately 6 quirks, which are muscle growth, super regeneration, shoulder-mounted jets, transforming arms, power and storage. Also, as an extra fact, I discovered that it has a high IQ. Although the Nomu from the other time had a very low IQ to the point of only obeying, this Nomu seems to have the IQ of an average person, concluded. Izuku, serious, a Nomu with very powerful quirks, and not only that but he can also think for himself. Great, what I was missing, he thought sarcastically. Hood, crazy, it's you. The Vigilante. This is great. Now I can kill you and Endeavor at the same time. Shout to use his quirks, transforming arms, transforming them into wings, plus shoulder-mounted jets, plus power, plus muscle increase, heading to Izuku at high speed to punch him. Izuku couldn't dodge it in time even with the danger sensor, so he used 300% power accumulation plus black whip to wrap his arms to block Hood's attack using his arms in an X shape. Not even with the block that Izuku did could he save himself from flying into a building and becoming embedded. Izuku swore, okay. That did her thought so that his danger sensor would activate again. At this Izuku quickly had to dodge a blow to the head from Hood. Our protagonist, seeing that Hood was exposed, gave him a direct blow to the stomach, sending him flying. Izuku, serious and pained, damn. I admit I can't beat him, so I think my only option is. He thought as he watched Endeavor slowly get up. Hey Endeavor, I hate you and I know you hate me, but let's put that aside for now and defeat that Namahe proposed, looking at Endeavor. Endeavor hated to admit it, but he was sure that if Izuku hadn't intervened he would probably be dead, so he just gave a big sigh. Enji, serious, fine. just this once. He said to generate fire from both hands a list. He asked only to see Izuku nod. Good, said. Now Hero and Vigilante went at high speed towards Hood to start their 2vs1 fight. Hood crazy, do you really think you can beat me? Shout to use shoulder-mounted jets and quickly go towards Endeavor and Izuku. Both seeing that Hood was approaching, Endeavor launched a powerful flare that left Hood with large burns that in a matter of seconds began to regenerate, so he had to dodge Hood. Izuku on the other hand, used float plus 300% power build to meet Endeavor. Izuku, serious, hey, I scanned that Nomu and he has 6 quirks, one of regeneration as you just saw, muscle increase, shoulder-mounted jets, transforming arms, power and storage. The truth is I think the only way to beat him is to use your quirk to its maximum. The only problem is that it could affect the civilians around, so it was interrupted by Endeavor. NG, serious, I must use my quirk at a high altitude to avoid that. I finish the conclusion. Izuku simply nodded. Izuku, serious, I admit it won't be easy to achieve that, but it's worth a try. Said. Hood crazy, less talking. More fighting. Shout approaching them at high speed. Endeavor used his quirk as propellants approaching Hood to give him a powerful punch wrapped in fire in the face, leaving him bewildered, and when he was already recovering he received another punch from Izuku with the accumulation of power at 300%. This time not only did he make Hood retreat, but he sent him flying, crashing him into a billboard, drawing the attention of the civilians around until some began to record the fight. Hood crazy, ha 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 ha. Yes, keep it up, in the end your effort will be in vain. Shout to quickly stand up and activate his transforming arms in the form of wings plus shoulder-mounted jets, heading at high speed towards Endeavor and Izuku. And so they continued fighting, where Hood used his increased muscle plus power to give powerful attacks and used transforming arms to defend himself, as if they were a shield. Endeavor used his fire in multiple ways, such as punches, long-distance attacks, and used some special movements, but Hood's regeneration was exaggeratedly large. Izuku had to use too much of the 300% power buildup plus float plus danger sensor plus black whip to attack and defend himself as best he could. In one of Hood's attacks he hit Izuku very hard, causing him to crash against a building and through a window. This caused small crystals to become embedded in his skin, causing him to bleed slightly. Izuku, in pain, damn, he whispered as he quickly removed the crystals from his body. Endeavor was just shocked by what just happened, but this caused him to get distracted. Hood took advantage of that to give Endeavor a brutal attack on the face, where he drew a large amount of blood. Izuku was already back in the fight only to see Endeavor seriously injured. Izuku, in pain, we must finish him off now, he thought. Our protagonist, to make sure that Endeavor's condition didn't worsen, used 300% power buildup plus float to get close to Hood, and using his black whip he wrapped him up. Hood is struggling to free himself from the black whip, but received a huge burst of blows from Izuku where he could do nothing. Izuku, serious, I have to make Nomu fly to a great height, but even with 300% I won't be able to do it, so I'll have to use more power, he thought. With this decided, he stepped back to begin activating power accumulation at 600% plus float plus FA Jin plus black whip to wrap his arm, with which he will do the attack. With this combination he went very fast towards Hood to give him a final full power punch to the chin, which sent Hood flying. Izuku, serious, now Endeavor, I scream, looking at the aforementioned. Endeavor understood what he meant and for the last time used his quirk as propellants to get to where Hood was and begin to subdue him, and then use his most powerful attack. NG, angry, I hate UA plus Ultra's motto, prominence burn. He screamed, giving Hood his full attack. There were no more traces of Hood, which meant that he was finally defeated, where the civilians began to congratulate Endeavor and Izuku, although it was also noticeable that Endeavor was on the verge of collapse, because a few seconds after defeating the Nomu he began to plummet. The civilians were worried seeing this, since he did too much for his large wound on his face. Fortunately Izuku was able to save Endeavor by taking him by the right arm to begin swinging towards the nearest hospital. Izuku, serious, you owe me a debt, he whispered as he continued swinging with one arm, since with the other arm he was holding Endeavor, on the way to the hospital. After a few minutes I arrived at a hospital, where I entered and left Endeavor in the waiting room, where he surprised everyone with his condition. Izuku, serious, give him the care he needs to recover, I have to go, he said to leave the hospital and start swinging again on his way to the UA. 45 minutes later. Izuku was already arriving at UA until he finally reached the dormitory area and entered through the window of his room, tired and in pain, to lie down on the floor to begin breathing rapidly while holding his arm very tightly and using the accumulation of power at 600%. Izuku, tired and sore, I need a vacation. He whispered and then yawned, and in a matter of seconds he was. The next day, Izuku was waking up where he slowly began to get up from the floor still in pain. He also forgot that he was wearing his vigilante suit, so he took it off and put it away. And as if being hurt wasn't enough, he has to go to class. Before leaving the dorms he put on some bandages for the wounds he had from the fight against Hood. Fortunately for Izuku, his wounds are not in places that are noticeable. With his uniform already on, he went to his classroom where, after a few minutes, he wanted to go to the infirmary to treat his wounds. He had planned to pretend to be sick and go to the infirmary, but it would be very unbelievable under those circumstances. So he had to stay in the living room. He really wasn't paying much attention since there wasn't anything important going on until something finally caught his attention. Maijima, calm, okay guys, I have a surprise for you. The director and Aizawa agreed that 2 students from the support department of this classroom will go with Class 1A to an island called Nabu to help Class 1A if they are looking for improvements for their suit or if they want to repair their suit. I said it, moving everyone. Everyone started to get excited until Izuku had a doubt, so he just raised his hand, getting his teacher's attention. Maijima, calm, do you have a question, Midoriya? He asked, looking at him. Izuku calmly, yes, Professor, although I actually have 2 questions. The first is, how will they choose the 2 students who will go with Class 1A? And when will the island thing start? Asked Maijima, calm, excellent question. For that we will do a kind of draw where you have to take a folded piece of paper from the desk. When you open the paper it has a number written on it, and once everyone has their number I will take a sheet where I will choose the first 2 who will go, and regarding when it will be in 2 days, concluded. With that said, everyone started taking their roles including Izuku. After everyone took their roles they sat in their places. Maijima, calm, okay. Now that everyone has their numbers, I'm going to pick the 2 winners. He said to put his hand on the desk where he took 2 sheets, and the winners are. He said to see the leaves number 18 and number 2 said. Almost everyone was discouraged because those weren't their numbers, but our protagonist had a look of surprise on his face since he had number 18, but he had a question in his head, who was number 2? Well, Hatsume, happy, great, I'll go to an island to show the civilians the majesty of my cute babies. He said with great enthusiasm, making Izuku have a big drop of sweat running down his head. Maijima, calm, well Hatsume, what number do you have? Asked Hatsume. Felice, number 2 said. Maijima, confused, and who has number 18? I asked, looking at the other students. Izuku, calm, I have it, said, showing his number. Maijima, calm and a little tired, well since you're going to, please make sure that Hatsume doesn't blow up the island with one of his inventions, said. Izuku, calm, it's okay, said. After school, Izuku went to the infirmary as quickly as he could, but in the process his wounds began to reopen, until he finally arrived in pain at the infirmary. The green-haired boy began to lightly knock on the door until Recovery Girl opened the door, and when she saw that it was Izuku, she made a small, bitter face. Chio, a little annoyed, brat, what did you do now? Asked. Izuku, tired and sore, it's a long story, but in summary I fought against a very powerful Nomu and I got hurt. I've been like this since dawn, said. Chio, a little annoyed, sigh, these kids today get hurt all the time, said. Once he stopped complaining to Izuku he began to heal him, and using his quirk to heal Izuku faster even though he felt tired but was able to stay conscious. A while later, with his wounds healed, he left there to go to the dorms of Class 1A to go see Eri to talk and play with her. Also from time to time he talks with Class 1A, mainly with Bakugo. Izuku, calm, by the way, where is Melissa? He asked, looking at Bakugo while petting Eri's head. Bakugo, calm, she's in her room, and he was interrupted. Mina, happy, you seem to be so focused on her, is there something specific? He asked with a smile. Mina's smile was like the one in the anime and the one I showed in chapter 34. Izuku, calm, actually he couldn't finish because he saw Melissa coming into the bedroom. Melissa, seeing Izuku, just put on a calm smile, but behind it was a murderous aura that was starting to make Izuku nervous. Melissa, calm. Hello. Izuku, he said, making Izuku a little nervous. Izuku, a little nervous, hi Melissa, said. Melissa, calm down. Since you're here, can we talk privately in my room please? Said. Izuku, a little nervous, oh of course, said, to start following Melissa to her room. Once they arrived at Melissa's room, they both entered and Melissa locked the door while Izuku sat on Melissa's bed, bowing his head. Izuku, nervous, what do you want to talk about? Asked. Melissa, can you tell me what exactly happened in your fight against Inomu? He said, showing him from his cell phone a video of Izuku with the help of Endeavor fighting with Nomu. Izuku, nervous, it's a funny story. Said. Izuku began to tell him from how the fight started until when it ended. Upon hearing all this, Melissa simply lowered her head, only to then hit Izuku on the shoulder, causing him to groan in pain. Melissa, a little annoyed, that's for worrying me. He said, looking at Izuku, who was just rubbing his shoulder. Izuku, a little sad, I'm sorry. He was interrupted by a hug from Melissa. Melissa, a little calmer, but I understand your reasons. So he forgave you. He said, still hugging Izuku. Izuku reciprocated the hug until something came to his head. Izuku, calm, hey, I have a surprise for you. He said with a small smile. Melissa, confused, and what is it? Asked. Izuku, happy, well it turns out that Professor Power Loader held a draw for 2 students from the support department to accompany your class to an island to modify their suits or simply repair them. Said. Melissa, interested, that means. Izuku, happy, I am lucky to be able to go with you and your class to Nabu Island. He said this so that a second later Melissa gave him another hug. Melissa, happy, that's great. We can be together, he said enthusiastically and then gave Izuku a kiss on the cheek. Wait. And who else is going? Asked. Izuku, calm, Hatsume is going too, said. Melissa, confused, Hatsume. Isn't that the girl from the sports festival? Asked. Izuku, calm, yes, it's her. Said. After clarifying everything, they returned holding hands to the room where the entire class 1A was in the room and a quiet Eri was watching television until the aforementioned realized that Izuku and Melissa returned. Eri, happy, mom, dad. He said, running towards them and giving them a hug, getting everyone's attention. The rest of the class was surprised when they heard Eri say to Melissa and Izuku, mom and dad, but Mina noticed that they were holding hands, which excited her. Mina, happy, so, mom and dad. So they're dating? He asked excitedly, looking at the couple and Eri. Melissa, Izuku, happy, that's right. They said at the same time while Izuku was carrying Eri in piggy form and the girl played with Izuku's curls. This clarification left the class in shock, and Kaminari and Mineta started to cry comically and whisper things like, damn broccoli, lucky broccoli, teach me your secrets teacher, etc. But seconds later the girls started to rejoice with Melissa about her relationship. Bakugo, mocking, I wonder how mom will take it. He asked, looking at Izuku, who was in a little shock since he hadn't told his aunt, Mitsuki, about his new girlfriend, but he decided that he would tell her after returning to the island. Eri, confused, dad, what is Mr. Bakugo talking about? He asked, still playing with Izuku's curls. Izuku, a little calm, nothing important, he just wants you to call him Uncle Kachin. He said the last thing with a small touch of mockery, annoying Bakugo a little. Eri, happy, it's okay. I like to call him Uncle Kachin. He said, making Bakugo blush slightly in embarrassment at that moment, and now he wanted to kill Izuku, but deep down he liked that Eri called him Uncle Kachin. Bakugo, a little calm, how nice of you, Erisade. Izuku began to talk to the entire class, confessing that he and Hatsume were going to accompany them to Nabu Island, which excited them a lot. Hours later Izuku returned to his sleeping area and entered his room. Izuku, calm, well even though there are 2 days left it would be better to prepare to go to Nabu Island, whisper. So the green-haired man began to pack some things he would use on the island, and a few minutes later he had everything ready. Once everything was ready, he decided to go out in his security guard outfit to patrol, where he continued with his daily routine. 2 days later, nothing interesting happened to Izuku these days, as he did his usual school, visiting Eri, spending time alone with Melissa, and his job as a security guard. Even though he received the news that Endeavor will remain in the hospital for a few days to receive recovery treatment. Aside from that news there was nothing new, not even from the League, which worries Izuku a little. At the moment, Izuku was saying goodbye to Eri. Eri, sad, promise that you and Mom will come back, she said while hugging Izuku, and he hugs her too. Izuku, calm, I promise, daughter, he said, stroking Eri's head, and then Melissa approached both of them. Melissa, happy, calm down Eri. Like your dad said we'll come back, he said, approaching Eri and giving her a kiss on the forehead. Behave yourself with Mr. Aizawa, he said while Eri just nodded. And so Class 1A and their special guests, Izuku and Hatsume, left on a boat bound for Nabu Island. While this was happening, Class 1A was doing a bunch of meaningless things. Melissa and Izuku were together having their view of the sea. Melissa, happy, this will be great Izuku, going to an island to put into practice what my friends and I have achieved on our path as heroes, he said with enthusiasm, plus we'll be able to spend more time together, she said happily with a small blush playing with her fingers. Izuku, happy and calm, I know, it will be great, he said with a smile looking at Melissa. Hours later. Hours passed and the students had finally arrived at their destination, although on the journey some students vomited, Mineta and Kaminari. Other than that nothing else interesting happened. When the students set foot on land, they were greeted very kindly by the civilians who lived on the island. But there were two children watching from a distance. Question mark, question mark, question mark. A little annoyed, I don't understand why they brought some kids and not real heroes, he said looking at the students interacting with the civilians. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Shy, I don't know sister, maybe they are good like the heroes who were, Harahe said looking in the same direction as his sister. Question mark, question mark, question mark. A little annoyed, I don't trust them, Katsuma said. The little boy now known as Katsuma just stayed silent and then saw the hero Edgeshot's enamel pin. After the students greeted the civilians, the latter told them where they would be staying during their stay on the island. Once the students knew where they were going to stay, they began to put their things in the room they were going to use. Days later. These days Class 1A started their hero practices on the island, helping with things like saving people from drowning, finding missing people or pets, helping to repair things, although they actually asked Izuku for help with that, etc., so everything was relatively calm. At the moment, Izuku was in the living room of the dorms where they live at the moment until a phone started ringing on one of the desks, and since there was no one near the phone he approached to answer it. Izuku, calm, yes. Hello, what do you need? Asked. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Worried. Help, please. I can't find my brother. Said. Izuku, calm, don't worry girl, the heroes are on their way, he said and then hung up. Just after hanging up, Melissa, Uraraka, Jiro and Izuku arrived and approached them. Melissa, happy, hi Izuku, is something wrong? He said the last thing as a question. Izuku, calm, well, a girl just called asking for help to find her brother, since you are here you can go look for him, said. Melissa, happy, okay, let's go girls, he said and then left with Uraraka and Jiro. Izuku only came out for a few moments to wish them luck. The part about going to find Katsuma was the same, just change Izuku for Melissa. After a while it was already night and everyone had returned. They were about to prepare dinner until a bunch of civilians arrived with lots of food for everyone in gratitude for what they had done. When the civilians had gone home and Izuku decided to go out to get some fresh air, but Melissa followed him to see him. Melissa, confused, something's wrong, Izuku asked. Izuku, calm, nothing, I just wanted to go out for a few moments and clear my mind, he said looking at the moon. Melissa, calmly, it's okay and it is interrupted. Katsuma, shy, sorry. Melissa, calmly, hello Katsuma said. Izuku, confused, do you know him? I asked looking at her. Melissa, calm, yes, it was the lost boy from a while ago, but it turns out he wasn't lost, his sister Mahoro had put us to the test, or something like that. Said so, is something wrong, Katsuma? Isn't it too late for you to be out alone? He asked looking at Katsuma. Katsuma, shy, well, I saw a villain, he said surprising Izuku and Melissa. Melissa, a little serious, I have to go, and she is interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, a little serious, if you go at least take someone with you, he said looking at her. Melissa, a little serious, fine, I'll ask Bakugo to come with me, said. Izuku, a little serious, okay, said. Melissa went to Bakugo explaining what Katsuma told her, and so they both followed Katsuma while Izuku simply said goodbye to the three and then joined the resistance. The same thing happened with the fake villain, just change Izuku for Melissa, and although Bakugo was angry he didn't yell at the children, but it was noticeable that he was very angry. 15 minutes later, Izuku was sitting on the living room couch watching some TV until someone opened the door revealing a very angry Bakugo and a Melissa who had a large drop of sweat running down her head. Izuku, confused, and how did it go? He asked looking at them. Bakugo, angry, shut up. He whispered and then went to his bedroom and closed the door loudly. Izuku, confused, and what happened? He asked looking at Melissa, and she sat next to Izuku and then sighed. Melissa, a little tired, there was no villain, it was an illusion created by Mahoro, who is Katsuma's older sister, he said, drawing a big drop of sweat from Izuku. Izuku, calm, I see. Look on the bright side, at least we don't have to worry about that, he said this to reassure Melissa. Melissa, calmly, you're right, he said to see Izuku as he gets up from the couch and stretches a little. Izuku, calmly, well, I think it's time to sleep. He said to offer his hand to Melissa, which she accepted with a smile and a small blush. Melissa, happy, if we go to sleep. He said, taking her hand and getting up so they could both go to sleep in their room. Yes, they are sleeping together. The couple went to sleep in their bedroom where they fell asleep hugging each other in a matter of seconds. The next day, everything seemed to be calm like the other days, even though Izuku was alone in the residence since everyone was helping, including Hatsume, and was about to watch a little television until a call rang which Izuku answered. Izuku, quietly, yes. Hello, what? He was interrupted. Mahoro, scared, please help. There are real villains on the island, and the call was cut off, surprising Izuku. Izuku, seriously, damn. This is so bad. He thought about going to his shared room with Melissa. When I entered the room he was quickly taking his security guard outfit out of his suitcase. Izuku, serious, I didn't really plan on using it, but I'm glad I have it with me right now. He thought to start putting on his suit and quickly leave the resistance, but he met Melissa in her hero suit accompanied by Bakugo. Melissa, Bakugo, surprised Izuku, why do you have your vigilante outfit? What's going on? They asked. Izuku, serious, Mahoro made a call saying that there are real villains on the island, he said, surprising them, but Bakugo got a little upset. Bakugo, a little annoyed, and it won't be another joke? Asked. Izuku, serious, it sounded like she was really scared for it to be a joke, plus the call was cut off, so I'll go investigate, said. Melissa, would be, let me go with you, I have an idea of where they might be, said. Izuku, serious, okay, Katsuki, inform Class 1A about the situation, said. Bakugo, serious, okay, said. Izuku and Melissa sped off in search of the children while Bakugo went off with his explosions to look for reinforcements. Meanwhile, with Mahoro and Katsuma, the children were seeing all the destruction and scared. Mahoro took his brother's hand so they could go home to be safe, but they couldn't do anything because a tall man appeared who was wearing a suit, but the most notable thing was that he had a large black mask that covered from his chest to his nose and some tubes embedded in his back. 9 Calm, good afternoon, kids. Let's make this easier for everyone. Kid, give me your quirk and I'll let you go, he said as if nothing was wrong, approaching the children and scaring them. 9 stretched out his hand ready to steal Katsuma's quirk, but Mahoro stood in the middle and hugged his brother to protect him. 9 Calm, girl. Don't try to protect him. Just give me his quirk, and he was interrupted because he had to activate his air wall quirk to protect himself from a punch from Izuku with the power accumulation at 300%. Melissa arrived with the children to take them, carrying them so they would be safe, and 9 upon noticing this took out from his back what looked like a large water snake to try to prevent Melissa and the children from escaping, something that Izuku noticed, so he used float plus FA Jin plus accumulation of power 300% to hit the snake with too much force that disoriented it. 9 Calm, wow, you really are amazing, as they say Kurai Atami, I wonder what kind of quirk you have to do all that, said. At that point, 9 used his scanning quirk to see what the quirk was, but he didn't see anything, which left him in shock, causing him to lower his guard. From my point of view, the scanning quirk part is like he could see a light through people, being his quirk, but Izuku, not having a quirk, does not possess the light. 9 in shock. How come he couldn't finish speaking? Because he received a punch in the face, which cracked his mask a little and also sent him flying, causing him to crash into a pile of trees. Meanwhile, with Melissa and the kids, the three had arrived at a warehouse where the civilians were taking refuge. Their Katsuma also confessed to Class 1A that he was 9's target because of his quirk, so they began to devise a plan for this. Melissa also told them that the vigilante Izuku was on the island fighting against 9, which surprised everyone except Bakugo. After all, how did the most wanted vigilante in Japan get to Naboo Island? They decided to ignore the reason for the vigilante's appearance for the moment to devise a strategy to defeat the villains. Back with Izuku, the green-haired man was floating in the air, dodging purple lasers and giant water snakes at high speed, causing 9 to start to get frustrated. 9, frustrated. I don't understand. How do you do all this without a quirk? He said to attack again with laser bullets plus Hydra. By fusing both attacks, the head of the water snake began to glow purple and then fired its laser mouth, which surprised Izuku, who was able to dodge the vast majority of lasers, but some grazed his arms and legs, which made some holes in his suit as well as his mask on his left eye, revealing a bit of his face, and he began to bleed a little. 9, seeing Izuku's state, was going to launch the same but had to use the air wall to protect himself from a combined attack from Melissa and Bakugo. Melissa, taking advantage of this distraction, took a great leap in the direction of Izuku to carry him bridal style. Izuku, sore, they took their time. Whisper. Melissa, sad, sorry for the delay, said. Melissa landed on the ground and placed Izuku against a nearby tree where he slowly began to lose consciousness due to lack of blood. Bakugo and Melissa launched themselves to attack 9. Melissa replicated Izuku's Delaware Smash Air Force with her fingers to attack 9 from a long distance as best she could. Bakugo used his most powerful attacks, Blast Rush Turbo, Stun Grenade and Howitzer Impact. Those are the attacks he used. 9, tired of the attacks, takes out more snakes from his back. The fight between 9, Melissa and Bakugo was the same in the movie, Change Izuku for Melissa. They were in pain and 9 was about to attack them to kill them, but he couldn't because his condition betrayed him reaching his limit. When this happened, Iida, Uraraka and Tsuyu arrived to take Izuku, Bakugo and Melissa to the shelter. Uraraka removed the gravity, Tsuyu took Melissa with her tongue, and Iida took Izuku and Bakugo. A few moments later, the students finally arrived at the shelter where they began to care for the 3 injured as best they could, but the one in the worst condition was Izuku, and they didn't know what to do until Katsuma arrived accompanied by Mahoro. Katsuma, shy, excuse me, maybe I can help, said. Mahoro, worried. Katsuma, no, you don't use it much, and if you do it can hurt you, said. Katsuma, shy and sad, I know, but that villain wants my quirk and I think it's my fault that they get hurt, so please let me help them, said. The young heroes had their doubts, but to tell the truth they didn't have many options at the moment, so they agreed to let Katsuma heal them. Katsuma began to heal Izuku where he began to feel dizzy. Mahoro, seeing this, tried to stop him, but he refused and continued healing Izuku, and a few minutes later he was already showing signs of recovery. And then he continued to heal Bakugo and Melissa, which took him less time than with Izuku, but he had still greatly exceeded his limit, falling to the floor, breathing rapidly. The students were concerned about seeing Katsuma's condition until they heard Izuku begin to wake up with some moans of pain. Izuku, in pain, what happened? He whispered in the form of a question, raising his head, showing that half of his mask is broken. Iida and Todoroki began to realize who he was, but he didn't let them talk because he stood up. Izuku, serious, what's the situation? Asked. Yaoyorozu and Iida explained that 9's allies are scattered across the island and that they have a plan to finish them off. After this explanation, Melissa and Bakugo began to wake up, then they began to explain the plan to them as well, agreeing to prepare for what comes next. A few hours later, the island began to cloud over, falling into complete darkness. Class 1A defeated the other villains like in the movie, and I forgot the name of the place where the final battle took place. Sad face. Shoji used his body to protect the Shimano brothers from the strong air currents while watching the fight between Izuku, Melissa and Bakugo against 9. In the fight, Izuku was using 400% power accumulation plus Black Whip to cover his arms and better retain the impacts when attacking plus FA Jin plus Danger Sensor to try to attack 9 as he could. Melissa was using the OFA more than she could control to try to destroy his defenses, but this was harming him, making his arms purple, but he didn't care, and Bakugohei tried to cause as much damage as possible with his explosions. But 9 simply used 3 snakes to end the fight. Izuku, when receiving the attack, not only was injured but his inventions were completely destroyed and the upper part of his suit with nothing else remaining, his pants and boots, which also did not work to activate the FA Jin or float, although his mask remained in the same condition. With Bakugo suffered the same injuries as Izuku, and like the aforementioned, the upper part of his suit was also destroyed in addition to being out of combat due to lack of blood, and finally Melissa had the same wounds as Izuku, but her suit was the least damaged of the 3, but that does not mean that it will be saved from receiving damage. The 3 were trapped in the jaw of each snake. Everything seemed lost, everyone was already tired and hurt, but the green-haired man and his girlfriend were too stubborn to give up until they remembered something. They both looked at each other and seemed to have the same idea, beginning to put their hands together with great effort until they finally managed to do it. Both of them began to release a great energy powerful enough to free themselves from the snakes, and in the process creating a large curtain of dust. Izuku, serious and pained, "You know, by giving me your power you won't be a hero anymore," said. Melissa, serious and hurt, "I don't care now, I just want this to be over. Tell me, can you control it?" I ask as his sky blue rays change to golden rays. Izuku, serious and pained, "Hey, you're asking me when I was the one who told you how to use it," he said, to start taking out green rays which changed for blue ones. Melissa, pained, "Hee, it's true," said. When the curtain of dust went away it revealed a Melissa with distorted golden pupils and irises. Her hair stands on end and like her pupils and irises it is golden. Melissa would be, "With this power we are going to win," he said, taking out several golden rays. Izuku's hair became spiky, his pupils and irises turned blue, and his skin took on a reddish tone. He still has part of his mask like in the previous chapter. Izuku, serious, "And with this we will save everyone," said. 9, angry, "Just give up and accept the truth, you're done." He shouted to activate his weather manipulation quirk more forcefully, and in the process purple marks invaded his face. Izuku and Melissa looked at each other again and then nodded. Melissa, would be, "Ready?" he asked, shouting. Izuku, seriously, "Yes." I screamed to get more energy out, just like Melissa, to get into position to launch her attack. Izuku, Melissa, determinados, Detroit. Preparing his attack smash. They shouted, launching their attack to the sky. After launching that attack into the sky, he caused the clouds around the couple to disintegrate due to the powerful air current. 9, angry, "What kind of quirk is that?" he thought, looking at what happened. Izuku and Melissa, after launching their attack, held each other's arms tightly, Izuku right arm and Melissa the left. Melissa, serious and sore, "Are you okay?" asked. Izuku, serious and sore, "Don't worry," said. Melissa, would be, "So, go ahead." I shout for both of them to go at great speed towards 9. 9, seeing his speed, decided to strengthen the air wall, only for Izuku and Melissa to arrive a second later, delivering a powerful punch to the wall which upon coming into contact with the attack seemed to have no effect. The villain, seeing this, decided to use his quirk, shooting laser bullets at high speed along with several water snakes. The couple, seeing the great attack approaching, decided to go different ways to dodge the attacks. Melissa went above and Izuku went below. The moment Izuku hit the ground he began to run at great speed to the point where only a blue light could be seen, moving and dodging the laser bullets with relative ease. Meanwhile, with Melissa, she was in charge of maneuvering in the air, dodging the laser bullets aimed at her, in addition to destroying the water snakes that appeared in front of her. Izuku went to Melissa, so they both held hands, where he began to spin at high speed and then threw Melissa towards 9, where they managed to break the air wall and sending 9 flying in the process due to a powerful air current. 9, tired of all this, went straight towards Melissa to try to finish her off while the aforementioned was preparing for her attack. Melissa, in pain, "This could be my last," he thought, getting closer to 9. Smash, he thought to kick 9 with full power in the face. Izuku, serious and sore, improvised movement, he thought, light ring smash. I shout this last thing and start doing somersaults at high speed towards 9, finally giving him an axe kick to the head. To give you an idea, Izuku's attack is similar to Mirko's lunar ring attack, except Izuku used one leg because of his speed, giving it the shape of a ring. This last attack caused 9 to be sent crashing to the floor and creating a huge crater in the process, ending the fight where the green-haired man and the blonde-haired woman had reached their limit where little by little they would begin to lose consciousness, but not before Melissa had one last thought and felt that the fire inside her was going out. Melissa tired, goodbye. One for all, thank you for everything, he thought as he lost consciousness and his fire was going out. Hours later, the professional heroes were arriving at the island where they made sure the civilians were okay. They also arrested the villains that Class 1A had defeated. Also, one of the people who had arrived, seeing Melissa's condition, became scared and ran towards her. Toshinori, scared and worried, Melissa, please wake up. What happened? He asked looking at his niece. Melissa, sad and hurt, Uncle Might. I gave the OFA to Izuku. He said, surprising him. It was the only way to win. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry, he said while letting tears fall. This would have continued like this if they hadn't listened to Izuku. Izuku pained Melissa. I really don't need it. It's your destiny to have the OFA. I already have my destiny. He said so that with all his effort he reaches out his hand to delicately take Melissa's hand, and I think they know it. Said. Saying this, Izuku's veins as well as Melissa's began to shine. Seconds later Izuku's veins stopped shining and Melissa's shined even brighter. All of this seen by and shocked All Might, but Izuku could hear a voice before losing his connection with the OFA. Nana, calm, it was a pleasure meeting you, Izuku Midoriya. He said to finally lose the connection of the OFA. Toshinori, shocked, the transfer wasn't completed. No, it was the carriers. Thank you, teacher, he thought to the sky. After this, All Might made sure to take Melissa and Izuku to Recovery Girl to heal their wounds. He also had to prevent the heroes from discovering that Izuku was on the island. Days later, Izuku was already feeling better from his injuries, as was Melissa, but they got a big scolding from Recovery Girl in the process. They also had to hide Izuku's injuries better, since it would be very suspicious if a student from the support department had serious injuries when he wasn't supposed to have them. 9 also tried to escape, but on the way he met Shigaraki, but he killed him using his quirk, giving 9 a quick death. The students stayed on the island to repair the damage caused by villains, and Izuku, Bakugo, and Melissa said goodbye to the Shimano siblings before finally leaving Nabu Island. In a matter of hours Izuku, Hatsume and Class 1A were back at Musudafu. The first thing Izuku and Melissa did was to see Eri, who, upon seeing her parents, went to hug them. Eri, happy, yes, they're back, he said, still hugging them. Izuku, happy, of course, daughter, he said, stroking Eri's head. Melissa, happy, we miss you too, Erisade. After finishing the hug, Eri told her that Aizawa took good care of her, and that the aforementioned gave the little girl a small sleeping bag. This made Izuku and Melissa break out in a big sweat, but other than that everything was fine. Izuku, Melissa and Eri were catching up until it got dark. At night, Izuku was walking to the principal's office. Once he arrived he just knocked on the door and heard a pass from the other side of the door, so he finally entered the office. Nezu, happy, hello Midoriya. What can I do for you? Asked. Izuku, calm, I need to use the same materials and tools to recreate my vigilante suit since, as you know, what happened on Nabu Island was destroyed in the process. Said. Nezu, happy, okay, you have my permission for that. Said. Izuku, calm, thank you very much, director. Said. With this problem solved, he went to the support workshop where he began to recreate his suit from scratch and also decided to give his suit a new design. He worked until daylight to create the new costume, which was an inconvenience in class since he mostly fell asleep, which led to him being scolded by the teachers. After school, the first thing Izuku did was go to his bedroom and lie down to sleep on his bed. He slept for 8 hours until he woke up with his energy restored. When Izuku checked the time he realized it was 10 at night. Izuku, a little surprised, oh wow. Sigh, I guess I'll have to wait 2 hours to go on patrol. Whisper. While Izuku waited for 12 a.m. he started doing his homework and the work he didn't finish in class. By the time he finished them he realized it was already 11:55 p.m. So with this in mind he took a suitcase out of his closet where he had stored his new suit where he put it on and seconds later left his room swinging at a higher speed. Izuku, happy. It was a good idea to improve the Black Whip's capabilities, such as floating, power accumulation, the danger sensor, and even the FA Jin, he thought. At that point his danger sensor activated and he ended up dodging a chimichanga? Izuku, confused. But while he was interrupted by being hit in the face by another chimichanga. Izuku looked all around to find his attacker and I was interrupted. Deadpool, happy. Hello everyone. I'm everyone's favorite character. That's right, I am. I shout for a dramatic pause Toretto, and the most important thing in life will always be family, he said with a serious tone of voice, and he was doing another voice when he said it. Nah. It's a lie, my name is Deadpool and I'm loved by everyone so much so that the author put me here as a special guest in this chapter and... He was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, annoyed. Let's see, first of all. Who the hell are you talking to? Said Deadpool, happy. Oh. Hello Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet the famous vigilante alias Broccoli with legs, alias the violable Uke, alias Marijuana Head, alias he was interrupted again. Izuku, hysterical. How do you know my name? And what are those nicknames? He was interrupted by a blow to the head from Deadpool. The blow to the head was like the blows Mitsuki gives Bakugo. Deadpool, annoying. It's rude to interrupt someone you know, he said, shaking his finger at Izuku. Izuku, angry. You did it too, said Deadpool, surprised. That's true, said. This made Izuku sweat a big drop and seconds later he let out a long sigh. Izuku, a little tired. Can you at least tell me why you're here? Asked. Deadpool, happy. Oh, glad you asked. I'm just here for tonight to help you with your vigilante work, said. Izuku, confused. And why do you want to do that? Asked. Deadpool, happy. Why he was interrupted when he received a huge flame that began to burn Deadpool's head, but it didn't seem to affect him. Izuku, hysterical. But what? Said Enji, serious. It's time for you to surrender Kurai Atami. I admit that it took me a while to recognize you with that new suit, but it doesn't matter because now I'm going to take you to prison. Ando was interrupted. Deadpool, annoying. Hey Flames. How about we get to the action? I bet the readers will like it, he said, confusing Endeavor by the comment. Enji, a little confused. Do you know what he's talking about? I asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku, confused and a little tired, no idea, although in one part one agree with him. Let's just fight even though he always escaped anyway, he said, activating the power build up to 100%. Deadpool, happy. Oh yes. The most awaited moment of the chapter has arrived, he said, to take out his two katanas. Izuku, serious. Whatever you say, if you really want to help me just for tonight then you'll have to fight too, I guess, said. Everyone was silent for a few seconds before Deadpool and Izuku ran towards Endeavor. Once near Endeavor, Deadpool tried to cut him, but the fire hero barely dodged the attacks in. Deadpool, happy. Hey author. Can I take some words as weapons? Asked. Deadpool, I'm halfway through. I was interrupted. Deadpool, happy. Thanks friend. He said to take the words, thanks friend. Endeavor and Izuku had remained silent and stopped fighting when they saw the interaction, but what surprised them the most was that Deadpool pulled out of nowhere a text box that he used to hit Endeavor in the face, sending him flying. This left Izuku dumbfounded. Izuku, stunned. What was that? He asked, looking at Deadpool. Deadpool, happy. The power of the script, said. Izuku just stayed silent and then went swinging with a black whip to try to get away from Deadpool. Izuku thought he was already far away, so he went to the top of a building. Izuku, a little tired. Well, I think I've lost it, said. Deadpool, serious? Yes, I believe it. Izuku, hearing Deadpool's voice, turned around to see him. Izuku, hysterical. How do you do that? Said Deadpool, happy. I won't tell you, he said in the tone of a child's voice. Izuku was going to leave the building until he heard screams for help downstairs, where he saw a couple being assaulted. Izuku turned to Deadpool to tell him not to do anything until he noticed that he was no longer there. He looked everywhere until he saw down again where he could see how Deadpool was thanked by the couple for defeating the assailant and the assailant was knocked out on the floor. Shortly after the couple left, Izuku went down the building with his black whip to be in the same alley. Izuku, a little calm, "Hey. Good job," said. Deadpool, happy, I know, I'm amazing, right?" said. Deadpool, serious, "And now, it's time to put an end to this criminal scum," he said in an intimidating voice and then took out one of his katanas ready to stab the assailant in the head. But Izuku used his black whip to take a katana from Deadpool. Deadpool, annoyed, "Hey, that's my favorite katana," he said to take out the katana what was left for him. Izuku, angry, "You're not going to kill anyone. Shout." Deadpool, surprised, "Kill? No, that sounds really bad. I call it counter-survival," said. Izuku, angry, "It's the same," said. In the end, Izuku convinced Deadpool not to kill the assailant and if they continued saving people, defeating villains, and Izuku prevents Deadpool from killing them. And when they stopped to rest there, Izuku and Deadpool had a friendly conversation, where they ate chimichangas at Deadpool's request and Izuku finally understood why Deadpool was like that until a question comes to Izuku's head. Izuku, confused, "Hey Deadpool, I have one last question," said. Deadpool, happy, "So what is it? Why am I so awesome?" asked. Izuku, confused, "Who do you talk to when you're not talking to anyone?" asked. Deadpool, happy, "I just talked to the readers," he said pointing to the fourth wall. Izuku, more confused, "Okay. And who are the readers?" asked. Deadpool, happy, "Well, it turns out that everything that has happened to you in life is pure fiction created by the author and those who see you in your adventures are the readers who, by the way, really like your story," said. This left Izuku in shock, although when he heard that the readers liked his story, he felt happy in a certain way. Izuku, a little calm, "I see," said. "Well, how do I talk to readers?" he asked. Deadpool, happy, "It's very easy to do, just look at that address and simply say hi to the readers." He pointed again at the fourth wall. Izuku, confused, "Okay. I'll try. I look at the fourth wall. Thanks for reading my story," he said with a small smile. Deadpool, happy, "And until the next chapter." I scream looking at the fourth wall. Several days later, Izuku was in Melissa's room where he told the aforementioned about his adventure with Deadpool and her reaction. "Well, how would a normal person take it if you told them you were chatting with a stranger who possibly has mental problems, only for that same stranger to tell them their lives don't exist?" "Well, Melissa, hysterical, and you believed all that?" he asked looking at Izuku. Izuku, a little calm, "And no. Well, maybe a little no," said. Melissa, a little calm, "Why, you know what, we better forget all this. I don't want to have existential problems later," he said grabbing his head with both hands. Izuku, a little calm, "Okay, Sai, and how did your classes go today?" asked. Melissa, calmly, "Well, actually, the UA invited Mount Lady to help us do some interview practice," said. Izuku, interested, "How did it go?" asked. Melissa, a little nervous, "I got so nervous I could barely speak," he said playing with his fingers, removing a drop of sweat from Izuku. Izuku, calm, "It's okay," said. Melissa, happy, "And winter break is coming, do you know what that means?" he said with a smile looking at the green-haired man. The green-haired man understood and put on a smile. Izuku, calm, "Where would you like to spend Christmas during the holidays?" asked. Melissa, happy, "I'm planning to spend Christmas with my class and you can come too if you want," said. Izuku, calm, "Sounds good to me," said. After this they left the room to go to the main room where everyone was watching cartoons on television. Mineta, happy, "You know Eri, what if I taught you something better than those cartoons?" said. Eri, confused, "And what is it?" he asked innocently. Mineta, happy, "It's..." He couldn't finish as he felt two murderous presences behind him. Izuku, calm, "Hello Mineta," he said scaring the dwarf. Melissa, happy, "I kindly ask you to stay away from our daughter," he said with a calm smile, scaring Mineta. Many of Class 1A remained silent upon seeing all this. If this was how Eri's parents acted when they protected her innocence, they didn't want to imagine what it would be like if they made her cry. Mineta slowly walked away from Eri. When no one saw him he ran away and in the process wet his pants from fear. When Mineta left the whole atmosphere calmed down and everything returned to normal. Eri, Izuku, and Melissa spent time together until Eri asked a question. Eri, confused, "Mom, Dad, what is Christmas?" asked. Melissa, happy, Christmas is a holiday where you give gifts, spend time with family or friends and have nice decorations, said. At this, Eri's eyes lit up with excitement, and a few moments later, Bakugo approached them. Bakugo, calm, "Hey Izuku, Mom just called me and said she wants to see us tomorrow at my house, can you take Shield so he can meet her?" said. Izuku promised that he would introduce Melissa to his aunt, so she simply nodded. The next day, Izuku, Melissa, and Eri were holding hands, Izuku holding Eri's right hand and Melissa holding Eri's left hand, and Bakugo was walking next to them. Izuku, calm, "Tell me, are you nervous?" he asked looking at Melissa. Melissa, nervous, just a little, he said, making Izuku sweat. Izuku, calm, "Don't worry, he'll like you," he said with a smile. Eri, a little nervous, "Mrs. Mitsuki won't be angry that I'm with you, Dad?" asked. Izuku, calm down Eri, "I'm sure that when I explain everything to him he'll welcome you with great affection," said. After so much walking they finally arrived at the Bakugo house where the younger Bakugo rang the bell. While they waited Eri, out of nerves, hid behind Izuku and a few seconds later the door opened revealing Bakugo's mother. Mitsuki, happy, "Hello, how are you?" He couldn't finish when he saw Melissa. Izuku, Katsuki, I have a question. Who is that girl? Asked. Izuku, a little calm, "And let me introduce you to Melissa Shield, she is mi." He was interrupted by Melissa. Melissa, nervous, his girlfriend said. As Mitsuki completed the sentence, he seemed to process the information until. Mitsuki, serious, "Izuku, how dare you not introduce me to your first girlfriend?" He said the first thing in a threatening way but the last thing he said in a happy way. Mitsuki enthusiastically approached Melissa and gave her a hug. Mitsuki, happy, "It's a pleasure to meet you Melissa. I'm Katsuki." Mitsuki, Bakugo's mother and Izuku's aunt. "But the truth is I see him as a second son and I'm sure he sees me as a second mother," she said happily, making Izuku have a small smile when he heard her say, "second mother." Melissa, a little nervous, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Bakugo," said. Mitsuki, happy, "You don't have to be so formal, dear, you can call me by my name," said. Mitsuki was going to say something else until she noticed Eri, who had peeked out to see her while she was behind Izuku. The girl, seeing that the older Bakugo saw her, simply hid her head again shyly. Mitsuki, happy, "And who is this little girl behind you, Izuku?" "Melissa's sister," asked. Izuku, nervous, well then he was interrupted by Eri. Eri, shy, "Dad, is she the Aunt Mitsuki you were telling me about?" he asked looking at Izuku. Mitsuki was in great shock when he heard Eri call him Dad. Mitsuki, surprised, "Izuku, can you explain to me why the girl calls you Dad?" asked. Izuku began to explain, although for obvious reasons he didn't say that he saved Eri from Shisaki, that he got along very well with Eri, seeing her as a daughter and her as his father. And when Melissa became his girlfriend, Eri began to see her as a mother. Mitsuki, upon receiving all this conclusion, could only say one thing. Mitsuki would be, "That means," he said, pausing dramatically. "I am now the great aunt of this cute little girl," he said, approaching Eri to carry her in his arms, surprising the little girl. Eri is nervous about what Mitsuki did, but Izuku approached Eri. Izuku, happy, "I told you, she welcomed you with great affection," he said with a smile. Eri, happy, "Yes," he said, raising his little arms with happiness. Afterwards everyone went into the house where Masaru Bakugo was preparing the food, and they also had to explain to him everything from before about Melissa and Eri. And with everything cleared up, a few minutes later the food was ready, so they started eating while they caught up on what they've done and what happened, except for the parts where Izuku does his job as a lookout. The next day, UA Hero Academy meeting room. All the teachers, heroes of UA, were sitting around a large table while Principal Nezu was among Aizawa's bandages. Ken, confused, "Why are internships starting again?" asked. Nezu, the Public Safety Commission gave us an offer to make all the students of the hero course do their internships, said. Angry, an offer. That means they bribed us. They just want us to force students to do internships, concluded. Nezu calmly, I'm afraid so, said. Nimari, a little worried, it's like they're telling us they want more heroes as soon as possible even though we have a lot of heroes, said. Nezu, yes, it seems that the Public Safety Commission could be hiding future danger. Whatever the reason, we must prepare ourselves after all, that is one of the qualities of being a hero. Well, end of the meeting if you excuse me, I must call the best heroes available, he said to get off Aizawa and leave. A few days later, Director Nezu's office. Nezu, well, we came to the conclusion that there is no traitor who worked for the League or anything like that, he said while talking to All Might on a video call with a tablet. Toshinori, I knew it was impossible for the students to be traitors, because I know he has the heart of a hero, said. Nezu, by the way, will you be arriving at Ua soon? Asked. Toshinori, I'm sorry, I'll be very busy, is something wrong with the students? Asked. Nezu, seriously, did you forget what we're celebrating today? Asked. Ua dormitories. Class 1A dormitories. Class 1A and Izuku minus Melissa, Merry Christmas. They shouted excitedly. Izuku started looking everywhere, confusing Kurishima what was near him. Kurishima, confused, what are you doing, Izu bro? He asked, drawing her attention. Izuku, sorry, Kirishima, I was looking for Melissa. He fell silent when he saw Melissa arriving dressed in a Santa costume. Mineta, dumbfounded, he's like an angel. He said to try to get closer to Melissa but received a kick that sent him crashing against a window. Everyone saw who kicked Mineta and it turned out to be Izuku, who was looking away while whistling, making a big drop of sweat come out except Melissa. Izuku, don't judge me, said. After this everyone went back to what they were doing and Izuku turned to see Melissa, who gave him a kiss on the cheek. Melissa calmly, thanks for keeping Mineta from doing something stupid, but I think you overreacted with the kick, he said with a drop of sweat, looking at Mineta now lying on the floor while Kaminaria was next to him, touching him with a stick, seeing that he moved a little and then giving a thumbs up, assuring that Mineta was fine. Izuku, see, he's fine, he said, looking at what Kaminari did. A few moments later Aizawa had arrived accompanied by Eri dressed as a saint. Eri, shy, Merry Christmas, said when everyone saw Eri, except Mineta, they thought she was pretty. Izuku and Melissa approached Eri. Izuku, Melissa, happy. You look cute, Eri, they spoke at the same time. This comment made Eri very happy and she embraced her parents with great affection. After this everyone started celebrating and ate a lot. And they also exchanged gifts, where Eri won Tokiyami's gift. Izuku and Melissa were sitting on the couch watching this with a drop of sweat until they saw a shadow above them, only to see an outstretched arm holding a mistletoe above them. Seeing the arm of the person responsible, they recognized it and turned around to see Mina. Mina, annoyed, hey, I want to see some action, don't judge me, he said, puffing out his cheeks. Izuku decided to ignore Mina, and a few seconds later he gently took Melissa's cheeks to kiss her on the lips, surprising her, but she began to reciprocate the kiss. Some people thought it was cute when they saw this, some kids were proud and others were jealous. Mineta, Mina, Kaminari, happy, long live the bride and groom, they shouted. Kurishima, proud, you're great Izu bro, he said, letting out manly tears. Hours later, the party was over and everyone was cleaning everything up while Izuku was taking care of Eri. Izuku, what did you think of Christmas, Eri? He asked, stroking his daughter's head. Eri, happy and tired, yawned. It was a lot of fun, thanks Dad, said. Dad, I want to give you a Christmas present, said. When he finished saying that, he took a folded paper out of one of his pockets and gave it to Izuku. The green-haired boy took the sheet of paper and began to unfold it until he saw that it was a drawing of Melissa, Eri and him, where they were happy holding hands. Melissa holding Eri's right hand and Izuku Eri's left hand. And above them there was a text that said, I love my family. After finishing reading that, Izuku let out small tears of happiness and then warmly hugged Eri. Izuku, happy. It's the best gift I've ever received, thank you daughter, said. Melissa watched their entire interaction with a smile, but a few seconds later someone called her. Todoroki, calm. Bakugo, shield. Would you like to have internships with Endeavor? He asked, drawing both of their attention. Meanwhile with Izuku. He saw that Eri fell asleep, which he thought was cute, then Melissa came to give Izuku a kiss on the cheek. Izuku, calm. Well, I think it's time to go back to my dorm, and he is interrupted by Melissa. Melissa, a little nervous. Why, you know it's late and it can be dangerous to go out late at night, and she was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, amused, hey, if you wanted me to sleep with you, you should have told me, she said, blushing to Melissa. Melissa, embarrassed, then if you want, he said, playing with his fingers. Izuku, calm, of course, and we'll take Eri with us, said Melissa, happy. That's fine by me, said the couple, and their daughter, who was asleep and was being carried by Izuku, went to Melissa's room, where they laid Eri down between them and looked at each other with a smile. Izuku, Melissa, happy. I love you, they whispered as they began to fall asleep. Days later. Winter break would have already ended, and the students of the hero course began their internships with their respective heroes. Among them Melissa, Bakugo and Todoroki went to the same agency. Endeavor Agency. Enji, calm. Welcome to the Endeavor Agency, he said, smiling for a second, then changing to a serious face. Of course, as if it were that kind, said. Meanwhile with Izuku. The green-haired man was just combing his daughter's hair. Eri, confused, Dad, when will Mom come back? He asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku, calm. Eri just left yesterday, Ichi said with a drop of sweat, still combing Eri. Eri, calm. I know, but I want him back now, said Izuku, calm. Don't worry Eri, you'll see that he'll be back very soon, he said, to finish combing Eri's hair. Well, what do you think of your new hairstyle? He asked, showing her a mirror. Eri, surprised. Oh, it's very nice, thanks Daddy, said, looking at Izuku and giving him a hug. Izuku, calm. I'm glad to know that, daughter, he said with a smile. Izuku continued to live with his daughter until nightfall, where he tucked her in and waited until she fell asleep before putting on his vigilante suit and going on patrol. Meanwhile with Melissa. Endeavor Agency. Melissa was in one of the bedrooms in the Fire Heroes Agency and was about to fall asleep if it weren't for the fact that she heard a small knock on her window, which was covered by curtains. This initially confused her, and she also made him activate his quirk in case it was a villain. He slowly approached the window for a second after suddenly opening the curtains to see the cause of the noise. Seeing that it was Izuku, he calmed down and deactivated his quirk to open the window, letting him pass. Melissa, confused. What brings you here? He asked, sitting in his chair. Izuku, calm. I wanted to visit you, and Eri sends you her regards, he said, sitting next to her. Melissa, calmly. That's great, said Izuku, calm. And how are your internships? Asked Melissa, a little nervous. They're a little more complicated than the others have made, he said with a nervous smile. Izuku, calm. I see. Well, I have to go now. If I stay here any longer, they'll know I'm with you and we'll get into trouble, he said to get out of bed. Melissa, calmly. It's okay, he said to also get up and give Izuku a kiss on the cheek. Good luck and please don't hurt yourself, said Izuku, calm. Thank you, and you know I can't guarantee that, last Onohe said to give her a kiss on the cheek and go out the window swinging with his black whip while Melissa just stared at him until he was out of sight. Melissa, calmly. Yawn well. To sleep, he said to go back to lie down in his bed and go to sleep. With Izuku. The green-haired boy continued swinging while thinking. Izuku, serious. The last time the League made an appearance was when I faced Hood with the help of Endeavor, and due to his lack of inactivity it makes me believe that he is preparing for a large-scale attack. I hope I am wrong about that, he thought. As he continued swinging, his danger sensor activated, and he had to dodge projectiles that embedded themselves in a wall to reveal what they were. Izuku, seriously, feathers. He whispered and then turned around and saw the culprit of his attack. Hawks? Yes, this is a surprise. I usually find myself with Eraserhead or Endeavor around this time, said Keigo, relaxed. Well, you know life is full of surprises, he said with a smile. Izuku, serious. Get to the point. Why are you chasing me until now? Asked. After a few seconds of silence, Hawks just sighed and changed his relaxed expression to a serious one. Keigo, serious. The Public Safety Commission ordered me to kill you because they say you are an obstacle, said Izuku, serious. I knew the Public Safety Commission was hiding things, but I didn't think they also ordered heroes to kill people, said Keigo, serious. If that's how things are, I'm really sorry. To tell the truth, I like you and I respect you for the great determination you have, but I only obey orders, he said, and then took out 2 long feathers from his wings to use them as blades. Izuku just remained silent for a second after activating the accumulation of power at 150% plus floating plus black whip, approaching at great speed towards the feathered hero to give him a punch that ended up blocking the attack in the form of an X with the feathers that he uses as a weapon. Izuku took advantage of the fact that he was covered with the feathers to use his black whip, gluing both feathers together and getting them stuck in an X shape. Hawks was about to release the feathers if they hadn't gotten stuck in his hands, because Izuku threw his black whip at Hawks' hands again. Hawks used the few feathers he had left as projectiles to attack Izuku, but Izuku used his Delaware Smash Air Force to destroy the feathers. The feathered hero lost many feathers, making him unable to fly and causing him to begin to fall. Izuku, seeing it, went at great speed towards Hawks, where he activated his black whip again plus floated, shooting at Hawks, saving him from falling and slowly lowering him until he touched the ground. Izuku, serious, you're lucky that he saved you. The difference between you and me is that I don't kill even if they pay, Meihei said, still floating. Anyway, I have to go. I have to find out what large-scale attack the League is planning to carry out, he said, and then left while being watched by Hawks, and he freed himself from the black whip in his hands to take out his phone. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Hey Hawks, have you killed the guard yet? Asked Keigo, serious, unfortunately not, it slipped out of my grasp, said. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Hysterical, really, said Keigo, serious, not only that, it seems that he has come to the conclusion that the League is planning a large-scale attack, and in that part he is not wrong. Since as an infiltrator I know what they are planning, said. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Serious, in that case just take care of the League, warn Endeavor about the attack, and when you're done with the League kill the guard. He ordered and then hung up. Melissa. A week later, the students had finished their internships with enthusiasm and were now ready for something important. It was night and we could see Melissa, who was with Bakugo, Todoroki and Endeavor, in the Todoroki's house. Bakugo, confused, what are we doing here? Asked Todoroki. My sister wanted me to introduce you to my friends, so she invited us to dinner, said Bakugo. I see, said Todoroki. Anyway, let's just go in, he said, being the first to enter and then followed by Bakugo and Melissa. When they entered they were greeted by Todoroki's older sister, Fuyumi. Happy, hello. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Shoto's sister, Fuyumi. Thank you for taking good care of my brother, he said with a smile. Melissa. Bakugo. Happy, it's a pleasure to meet you. You're welcome, although you have to be a bit troublesome from time to time. They spoke at the same time. And there they began to interact a little until dinner time came, but the atmosphere was uncomfortable because Todoroki's other older brother, Natsu, did not measure his words well, where the great resentment he has towards the fire hero was noticeable. You all know the reason. With Izuku, he was swinging his black whip following someone in strange clothing but lost sight of him, so he started searching all the areas for the possibility that he had left. Izuku, frustrated, where did he go? He thought as he continued searching for the suspect. Meanwhile, with the Todorokis, the dinner had ended uneventfully, and Natsu had left the house so he wouldn't have to put up with his father not knowing that a dangerous figure was stalking him in the shadows. With the students, they were saying goodbye to Fuyumi, and she thanked Melissa and Bakugo for being Todoroki's Shoto friends. With that said, they simply got in the car heading towards the academy. On his way to the academy, the driver of the car saw a silhouette, and as they got closer, it was clear from its appearance that it was anything but friendly. Ending crazy, you have a very nice house, don't you? Said. A few moments later he showed what had Natsu hostage. The villain was about to speak but received a powerful kick to the face from Izuku, who had barely left the place. Izuku, serious, I found you. Whisper. Ending crazy, he. That was a good hit, Vigilant Kid. But my fight is with Endeavor. He said to take out several white lines to send them towards the cars that were around him, throwing them towards Izuku to distract him, but he caught them with his accumulation of power at 50%. Endeavor, seeing Natsu as a hostage, quickly got out of the car with his hero suit ready. Yes, under his formal suit he had the hero suit. Ending. Crazy, do you remember me, Endeavor? He said that Endeavor was surprised to find out if he remembered it. It seems like you do remember. That makes me so happy. But the truth is, I just want you to kill me, he said with a crazy smile. Meanwhile, with the students, they were putting on parts of their equipment that they use in their hero suits and then going out to save the civilians who were trapped in their cars by the white lines manipulated by the villain. With Endeavor, the fire hero was about to attack the villain, but he was using his son, Natsu, as a human shield. Ending. Crazy, come on, kill me. I have your son. I have a lot of innocent people in danger. You have no other choice. Shout. The students sprang into action where Bakugo was in charge of saving Natsu, Todoroki of burning the villain's white lines, while all this was seen by a surprised Izuku and Endeavor. Izuku, surprised, it seems that your internships paid off, he thought as he continued to help in whatever way he could. Ending. Desperate, this can't end like this. You haven't killed me yet, Endeavor. I'll show you that you can't save everyone. Shout. After finishing saying this, the villain used his quirk to its full potential, where he took all the cars he could with his white lines and threw them very high. Izuku saw this, and just like Melissa, for both of them everything seemed to go in slow motion. The green-haired man, seeing everything that was happening around him, slowly closed his eyes, opened them again with a look of determination, and a second later activated the accumulation of power at 100% plus float plus black whip, taking all the cars he could. It seemed that he had already caught all the cars, but he was missing two that he could not reach. Izuku, frustrated, damn. I'm 2 cars short, I won't make it in time, he thought. Melissa was running towards the cars. Melissa, frustrated, I have to get there. I have to, he thought, and instinctively extended both arms in the direction of each car. A voice was heard in Melissa's mind. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Angry girl, you're not ready yet, shout. Melissa heard that voice, surprising her, but despite that, she pulled out black whips from her arms that stopped the cars from falling. All this was because Bakugo, Todoroki and Izuku were in shock. Izuku, in shock, the fifth wielder's quirk awakened. He thought. Bakugo, Todoroki, in shock, is that Izuku's black whip? The vigilantes, they thought at the same time. The fire hero was hugging his son Natsu, so he didn't see what happened. Izuku had finally come out of shock only to see that the villain was still conscious and was screaming like crazy to kill him. Endeavor. He got tired of listening to the villain, so he punched him in the face with the accumulation of power at 150%, leaving him out of combat and capturing him with his black whip. Izuku and Melissa exchanged glances for a few seconds as if they wanted to say something to each other. In the end, Izuku left there swinging to return to Ua. Izuku, serious, I'm going to have to talk to Melissa and All Might about what I just saw, he thought, still swinging. Hours later, it was already a new day at the Ua, where the students had returned from their internships the day before, but now we were located in a rest room where All Might, Melissa, and Izuku were. Toshinori, confused, young Midoriya, may I know why you gathered us here? Asked. Izuku, serious, All Might, I have a few things to tell you, but I'll tell you the most important of all, and I'm sure Melissa knows what I'm talking about. Said. Toshinori, a little serious, you can continue talking. Said. Izuku, serious, in short, I was patrolling last night following a villain that I later lost sight of, and when I found him he was on a highway with a hostage. It also turns out that Melissa, Katsuki and Todoroki were there, so they started to help as much as they could. The villain in a desperate moment launched all the cars he could. I caught the vast majority, but I was missing 2 cars, I wasn't going to get there in time and... I think you should tell Melissa what happened next, he said, looking at the girl. Melissa, a little nervous, I wanted to save the 2 cars but I couldn't. Instinctively I extended my arms towards the cars, but I heard a voice in my head telling me that I wasn't ready, and then that made me realize that I saved the cars with black whips that I took out of my arm, she said, leaving All Might in shock. Izuku, serious, he awakened at that moment the quirk of the 5th bearer, and to make matters worse he was seen by Katsuki and Todoroki. Said. Toshinori, serious, this could really be a problem. While it is impressive that Melissa has awakened the fifth bearer's quirk, it does not change the fact that if someone else, like the press, were to find out about this, they could associate Melissa with you as a vigilante or that she is you as a vigilante, but that is already very hard to believe, he said, thinking of different ways to solve the new information. Izuku, serious, speaking of vigilante, a few days ago I was attacked by the hero hawks who tried to kill me on orders from the Public Safety Commission, he said, surprised to both belongs. Melissa, hysterical, and why are you saying that until now? Why didn't you tell me? Asked Izuku, a little annoyed, maybe because you were busy with your internship. Plus, I was attacked the same night after visiting you, he said to give a sigh, and I also didn't want to worry you, he said, lowering his head. Toshinori, serious, can you be sure that it was really hawks who tried to kill you and not some kind of imposter? He asked, making Izuku raise his head to look at him. Izuku, serious, All Might, I can assure you that he was not an imposter. I have also heard from time to time in the underworld about how the Public Safety Commission ordered the heroes to kill for them. An example is the ex-heroine Lady Nagant, who is currently in the Tartar prison for murdering the president of the commission, although of course they had to change the events so as not to ruin the image of the heroes. If all this information among many other things were to come to light, people would begin to lose confidence in the heroes, and he remained silent for a few moments until everything began to come to a conclusion, making his eyes widen. Oh no, whisper. Toshinori, confused, what's going on? Asked Izuku, serious, that's what these internships were for. The Public Safety Commission knows that the League is preparing a large-scale attack. That's why they want more heroes as soon as possible. And if what I say is true, all for one could return, he concluded, leaving the older blonde in shock. Toshinori, angry, it can't be possible. He's locked up. It's impossible that. He was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, serious, All Might, heroes and villains exist, what was previously considered impossible. It wouldn't sound crazy at all to think that All Might managed to escape from inside or outside of Tartarus, he said, silencing the retired hero, just clenching his fists in frustration. Melissa, worried, so what should we do? Asked Izuku, serious, you must learn to control the fifth wielder's quirk, and if you manage to awaken the other wielder's quirks, All Might should help you control them as best as possible before the League's big attack, said Toshinori, serious, anything else I can do, young Midoriya? Asked Izuku, seriously, report all this to the director and tell him I'll take more things from the support department for my vigilante suit, he said, looking at All Might, who just nodded. With that said, the green-haired man left the rest room with a serious look. Izuku, serious, I must improve my suit as much as possible before the big attack, he thought on the way to the support department, and I think I already have some ideas in mind, he thought. Some time later, it had been a while since the talk that Izuku, Melissa and All Might had. Also, the more time passed, the green-haired man knew less about the League and what they had planned. Even in these last few days as a vigilante, he has been going out during the day. In addition, Melissa has also been learning to use the Black Whip and also awakened the quirk of the seventh carrier of the OFA. While with the green-haired man, he improved his vigilante suit as best he could for when the big attack takes place. He even created a new one, but he needed a powerful source of energy, so he decided to create his own source of energy. Although of course, this would not go unnoticed by the pink-haired girl's friend, Hatsume, so after Hatsume insisted too much on helping him and he accepted, they created a small but powerful energy reactor for the new function of his suit, and the truth is that Hatsume did not care why Izuku wanted the reactor, he simply wanted to create something that would not explode even with help. Day of the attack. It was daytime and Izuku was in his vigilante suit swinging with his black whip, watching if anything strange happened, since thanks to Melissa he knew that the city was evacuating. A few seconds later he saw in the distance what looked like a giant monster, Gigantomachia, which was being stopped by the heroine MT Lady in the forest, so he went at great speed, with black whip plus float, towards there to help. When he arrived he stayed on top of a tree where he saw that Mount Lady had been defeated by the monster and that the heroes Kamui Woods and Midnight were approaching the monster to try to stop it. Midnight tore her suit a little to activate her quirk to put Gigantomachia to sleep, and Kamui Woods helped her get closer to Gigantomachia, but blue flames came out of the giant's back, making it difficult to get close, and Mr. Compress threw some marbles which, when deactivating his quirk, revealed that they were large pieces of debris. The rubble was about to crush her, but a second later they were destroyed, turning them into small pieces. This was accused by Izuku, who had done a 100% Delaware Smash Air Force, but that did not take away the fact that the heroine was falling, so he used his black whip to stop the fall and carefully lower her. Izuku, serious, you two, said, looking at Kamui, who was already close enough to hear Izuku. And Midnight, go away and help somewhere else. I'll take care of this guy, he said, watching as Gigantomachia continued advancing, beginning to move away a little. The heroes were going to say something but couldn't when they saw that Izuku was no longer there and was on his way to Gigantomachia. Izuku, serious, I hope the improvements I made to my suit work, he thought, still heading towards Gigantomachia. Karen, activate the ultimate armor whisper. Karen calmly, yes sir, said. Little by little the green-haired man's chest began to shine, revealing that the reactor was there, and from there nanobots came out and began to completely cover Izuku's suit, giving it a new appearance. With his new suit armor already being close to the giant, he gave him a Delaware Smash Air Force at 600% to Gigantomachia's face, making him retreat a little. Gigantomachia, mad and angry, get out of the way. The teacher needs me. I screamed to punch him. Izuku, using the power buildup at 1000%, stopped the attack relatively easily with both hands. Izuku, serious, fascinating. The nanobots work perfectly. Thanks to that, my suit and my previous inventions merged with the nanobots, improving their capabilities to an enormous level. An example would be that the bracelets could withstand 1000% of the accumulation of power, and I came out unharmed, and thanks to the energy reactor I will be able to last the whole time. I think so, he thought. After finishing thinking, he uses his right hand, while with the other he continued to stop the previous attack, to hit Gigantomachia's fist, making him retreat again, causing him to lose his balance for a few moments. While this was happening, the green-haired boy went to the giant's back, where he saw the League, without Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who didn't recognize him because of the armor. Dabi, serious, who are you? He said, lighting his hands where blue fire came out. Izuku, Serio, in a single second I was next to Dabi Kurai Atami. He whispered to quickly step back to dodge the flare aimed at him. The League, except Toga, went in the direction of attacking Izuku, but he dodged the attacks very easily and counterattacked with 100% attacks, leaving everyone out of combat except Dabi and Toga. Izuku, serious, I see that you take the villain role very seriously, said Dabi, serious, whatever. Besides, you know I hate Endeavor, said Izuku, serious, I know, but the last few times I've seen him he's changed. At his own pace. By the way, what's wrong with Toga? He said, and the last thing he asked, looking at the girl who was looking away. Dabi, serious, she and Twice apparently became friends, but he was killed by Hawks, he said, surprising the green-haired man. Izuku, serious, do you have more bad news? Asked Dabi, serious, I discovered that All for One had created a copy of his own quirk to give it to Shigaraki, and it has been in a capsule for months so that it can withstand the power of the AFO copy, said Izuku, annoyed. Why would he ask? Said anyway, just leave and take your companions with you. I also know what you had planned to do against Endeavor, said, and if you do, things will only get worse than they already are, said. Dabi just stayed silent and took the unconscious villains as best he could. Toga would be, see you, he said, leaving together with Dabi. With no one else on the giant's back, Izuku hadn't realized how far Gigantomachia had advanced, seeing that he was almost there to reach the city. At this, the green-haired man activated his black whip, shooting it towards the Gigantomachia's left leg, where he began to run at high speed, using the accumulation of power at 500% in circles around the giant to entangle his legs with the black whip. The giant began to lose his balance, and Izuku decided to finish off the villain. He made a great leap at 1000% plus floating, punching Gigantomachia in the chin, which lifted him a few meters before falling back, knocking him out. Izuku, to make sure that Gigantomachia doesn't get up, wrapped him with his black whip to immobilize him. Izuku, serious, I must find Shigaraki quickly, he thought, until with his enhanced vision he could see a large trail of destruction that seemed disintegrated. It doesn't seem like it will be difficult. He thought to use 1000% power accumulation plus float plus black whip and leave at high speed. The closer the green-haired man got, he could see how the deterioration seemed to spread across the floor, disintegrating everything in its path. In the end, when he arrived, he found a scene he never imagined. What he was seeing was Bakugo, Todoroki, Endeavor and other heroes seriously injured and bleeding. But the worst thing for him was that he was watching Melissa angrily attack Shigaraki without holding back. Shigaraki AFO, crazy, one for all. You'll be mine, he whispered and then threw several black and red thorns in Melissa's direction. Izuku angry, now I'm really going to use all the capabilities that this armor has, the ones it already has and the ones I got thanks to the nanobot, she thought when he saw what was happening. Izuku, out of anger, like Melissa, decided not to hold back and activated the accumulation of power at 1500% plus black whip, for his arms plus float plus FA Jin, and thanks to the nanobots he could now become invisible, accumulation of power 1500% plus black whip plus float plus FA Jin plus invisibility. With everything ready he went towards Shigaraki AFO, at high speed he punched Shigaraki AFO, in the face, which sent him flying, confusing him like Melissa. Shigaraki AFO, angry, but what? I scream and then look at Melissa. What did you do? He was interrupted by a full power kick to the face from Izuku, who was still invisible. Shigaraki AFO angrily took out more thorns in all directions to hit Izuku, but he dodged them very easily and he attacked again with his Manchester Smash in the villain's abdomen, pushing them away as much as possible. The green-haired man threw his black whip towards Shigaraki's shoulders AFO, and when he saw the black whips he knew it was Izuku. The villain was going to attack from a long distance with his air cannon, but he felt a small push forward and in the end Izuku undoes his invisibility with his fist ready to attack him. Shigaraki AFO, Puroku. He was interrupted. Izuku angry, destruction smash. He thought, hitting the villain full in the face. Izuku didn't stop there and began hitting the villain left and right, seeing nothing but blurs, but from the lights on the green-haired man's armor, it seems as if they were light attacks. Izuku angry, light strike smash. Scream, still attacking Shigaraki AFO. Shigaraki AFO angry, if this continues, not even my regeneration could save me from this. He thought. Shigaraki AFO activated his strongest quirks, creating the Supreme Quirk combination in both arms to match Izuku. So Shigaraki AFO counterattacked Izuku by giving him a big blow to the chest, fracturing a rib. Izuku annoyed, okay, that hurt, Meihei said with difficulty. Shigaraki AFO took out several thorns that went in the direction of Izuku, where some were buried in his body, one in his right shoulder, two in his left forearm and one in his right leg. Melissa couldn't stand it any longer and went at high speed towards Shigaraki AFO to continue the fight she had before. Now Melissa moved faster than before, and because of her anger she awakened the quirk of the fourth OFA carrier and began to dodge Shigaraki's AFO attacks. He also used the black whip on his arms in the same way as the green-haired man, so he could attack as best he could and try to avoid breaking his arms more than they already were. Shigaraki AFO was only in charge of counter-attacking as he could, but mainly he tried to attack from long distance to be able to regenerate, which did not work well for him. The green-haired man, once recovered from the blow, removed the thorns from his body and used his black whip to cover his wounds. Izuku, sore and serious, I hope it works. He thought. Once again the green-haired boy returned to the fight, helping Melissa. The girl was going to ask who the boy was because she knew who was inside the armor, but the protagonist simply took out his black whips to try to strangle Shigaraki AFO, to leave him without air and unconscious, but the villain began to laugh even though it could not be heard well because he was being hanged. Izuku, serious, what's so funny? He asked, still with the black whips. Shigaraki AFO, crazy, the funny thing is that while we speak right now, one of my subordinates is transmitting a video that reveals the truth of this society, as well as your true identity. Izuku Midoriya, he said, leaving the green-haired man in shock. The villain took advantage of this to grab his face and try to disintegrate the boy, but Melissa arrived in time to save him from certain death. Izuku, shocked, Karen. Try to interrupt the broadcast. He ordered. Karen, calm, I'm afraid it's not possible, sir. There's no way to stop the broadcast. The only thing I can do is access the broadcast so you can listen to it, said. While they continued fighting, the video of what Shigaraki AFO was talking about was being broadcast throughout the country. In the video, Shigaraki, serious greetings, I'm sure you already know who I am, so there's no need for me to introduce myself to you. Anyway, I just came to tell you a few secrets about this society, said. Shigaraki, Serio, I take out a photo in which a child with white hair and blue eyes appeared. I present to you the first son of Endeavor. Chuya Todoroki said, you may be wondering what the first son of the current, no 1 inch has to do with anything. Let me tell you that this child is currently the villain. Dabi, he said, showing a photo of Dabi to compare both photos and then save them. You probably think it's a lie, but no. Blood tests were done on number 1, and the villain's blood, and they both matched. He showed the blood test that said it was positive. He believes that his first son died because a few years ago there was a fire in the forest where the child was, said. He also told the story of the Todoroki family. Shigaraki, serious, and to think that we are the villains. Endeavor is the perfect reason for how low this society can get. Although he is not the only one left behind. The current, no 2 inches hero Hawks has also hidden many horrible things from his past, as well as having to get his hands dirty by order of the Public Safety Commission. He said, showing a small video of how Hawks kills twice. Also on another occasion he tried to assassinate the most wanted vigilante in the country. He showed a fragment of a video showing Hawks with his 2 Blumas as weapons to kill Izuku. Speaking of the most wanted vigilante in the country, I want to tell you that the vigilante who has been giving the heroes and villains trouble. He said, taking a photo of the green-haired man from the sports festival. He is a quirkless boy named Izuku Midoriya, said. The video went on to show other horrible things that the Public Safety Commission forced some heroes to do, among many other things. End of video. Izuku was listening to the entire broadcast while fighting, and hearing his identity was revealed he exploded with anger. Shigaraki AFO, crazy, come on. Is that all you can do, Midoriya? Pathetic. But look on the bright side of all this. At least you'll be able to meet your mother soon. I scream, throwing more thorns at the green-haired man. The green-haired man in a fit of rage destroyed the thorns as if it were nothing, using the accumulation of power at 1750% plus Black Whip for his arms, which little by little began to hear how his bones creaked due to the great amount of power. He went towards the villain and hit the aforementioned's face several times, and his last blow had made a mark on his face. Izuku, cold, I'm going to finish you off. All for one, he said, looking at Shigaraki, but he could also see the face of the symbol of evil. Izuku used his Black Whip to catch Shigaraki AFO and attacked again with a smash. Izuku, Frio, Detroit Smash. Shout, attacking with his punch with the accumulation of power at 1750% plus float. Izuku, cold, Wyoming Smash. Scream, starting to hit Shigaraki AFO using his elbow, and the villain only limited himself to blocking the attack. Izuku, cold, Texas Smash. I scream, giving him one last attack since the green-haired man began to reach his limit, and his arms were already very hurt from using a large percentage of the accumulated power. Shigaraki AFO, calm. Do you know what the biggest weaknesses of the heroes, Midoriya, are? Asked. They always ensure the well-being of others before their own, he said, then looked at Melissa and threw several thorns at her. The blonde was about to act but was pulled away from danger by the green-haired man who received the attack from the girl. Melissa, in shock, what? She whispered when she saw what just happened and watched as her boyfriend fell to the floor, creating a crater that began to bleed. Shigaraki AFO, crazy. Do you know what disappointed me the most about Midoriya? Asked. He was a big part of my problems, and in the end I realized he was just a weak, useless, stupid quirkless, he said, creating more thorns towards the girl. The blonde in response went at great speed towards the villain, destroying the thorns with relative ease. Melissa, angry, take back what you said. Shout. The villain took advantage of the girl approaching him to begin stealing her quirk. The OFA and AFO thing was the same as in the manga and anime, change Izuku for Melissa. The girl and the villain began to fall to the floor exhausted, but the girl still retained her quirk. After some time, some members of the league arrived at the place. Toga was not there because he was talking to Uraraka. And Dabi revealed to Todoroki and Endeavor that he was Chuya Todoroki. Also, more Nomus arrived to the fight as well as more heroes to even things out, but Spinner gave Shigaraki one of his hands and put it on the villain's face, where he instantly woke up, and thanks to that the League began to escape. Days later, the news asked Endeavor and the other top 3 heroes, Endeavor, Hawks and Best Jeanist, about whether the information revealed by Shigaraki was true. Mainly they wanted to know if the story of the Todoroki family was true. To which the heroes affirmed everything for the villain, creating a great controversy in the country on whether the heroes are still trustworthy or not. The news also wanted to know what the OFA's quirk was, since it was also revealed by Shigaraki in the video. The heroes had only said that the person who carried this quirk was Melissa, since she herself had told Endeavor that Shigaraki was after her. And Principal Nezu confessed that he already knew that Izuku was the vigilante, in addition to giving him access to the technology at UA, as well as giving his arguments for not locking Izuku up for illegal use of quirk. It was also revealed that the Tartar prison was attacked by Shigaraki, freeing all the criminals, including AFO. Meanwhile, the green-haired man was taken to the hospital where they had to remove his suit and armor, also confirming Izuku's true identity as a vigilante. Izuku was in bed for 3 days, and also when recovering, All Might told Izuku that Melissa was planning to leave UA so as not to put anyone in danger. The protagonist was about to stop her, but All Might also said that he had already made that decision and wouldn't change his mind. With that said, the now recovered green-haired boy decided to also leave the UA with the goal of finding Shigaraki, AFO, and locking up as many criminals as he could. He convinced Lord Nezu to leave. Unfortunately for Izuku, he realized that his armor was too damaged to be used as well as his third suit, but his tools were intact, so he would only have to change his suit, returning to his second suit. He was also able to implant his energy reactor into the suit and used parts of the nanobots to add a new function to the suit's AI, Karen. He also wrote a letter to his aunt about leaving UA and to take care of Eri. Eri also received a letter from Izuku saying the same thing about leaving UA, but he promised Eri that he would visit her at night. 1 month later. During this time, the green-haired boy, along with his girlfriend and the top heroes, are in charge of fighting the villains. Also, on some occasions Melissa and Izuku met to fight villains. They also talked, and there were situations in which they told each other that one of them should return to UA, but both refused, although Izuku told Melissa about the promise he made to Eri to see her every night. There was an occasion in which Melissa had to fight against Muscular, and he had confessed that AFO had ordered him to go after her and bring her to him to obtain the OFA, and that after that Muscular could kill her. But the blonde was able to defeat Muscular and take him to prison. Unfortunately, she couldn't get information out of the villain because she had to knock him out. Meanwhile, with Izuku, it was a rainy night in which the green-haired boy spent his time swinging on his black whip looking for any disturbance. Everything seemed peaceful, making Izuku begin to suspect, and from one moment to the next his danger sensor was activated, dodging a bullet that was embedded in the wall. Izuku took out his communicator to inform him what was happening, but it was destroyed when he received a bullet exactly like the previous one. Kana would be Kurai Atami. Come with me peacefully and I won't have to tear your limbs off, he said with his quirk activated, pointing at the green-haired boy. Izuku, serious? Wow. You really are an ex-heroine, Lady Nagant. And before you talk about society, don't even bother, but I know what happened to you, said Kana would be. If you really know that, you'll also know that you won't stand a chance against me, he said, shooting at the green-haired boy. Izuku in response used his black whip to hit the bullet that was heading towards him and rolled on his own axis to change the direction of the bullet, returning towards the ex-heroine, who had to dodge the attack with the quirk that gave her AFO. Izuku, serious? What exactly do you want from me? Asked Kana would be. AFO said that you know a certain Melissa Shield. He said, surprising Izuku. He told me that if he finds you, he should ask you where the girl is, and if you refuse, what will happen to you, said Izuku, serious? So he just wants me as bait to attract Melissa. He thought I won't say anything about Melissa, said Kana would be. I wish you were cooperative, he said, and then looked at the green-haired man, but he had activated the smokescreen to block the vision. That, he thought. The green-haired man inside the smokescreen tried to find multiple ways to escape or set up an ambush, but he had nothing, so he came up with the riskiest and stupidest thing of all under the circumstances: improvise. Izuku began to activate the FA Jin plus Black Whip plus 200% power accumulation plus smokescreen. The boy began to run in circles at high speed, creating a small tornado made of smoke to confuse the ex-heroine, which began to work. Kana, a little annoyed, what a troublesome boy, he thought. The ex-heroine in response only began to shoot at the possible places where the boy moved as he turned, noticing that he was not using his second quirk to go to another building, and continued shooting towards the tornado where it began to slowly dissipate, revealing that there was no one there. The woman began to look around to locate the green-haired boy, but she couldn't. She would have continued looking for the boy if she hadn't heard something approaching at great speed. The sound became louder. The woman looked to her sides and then looked towards the precipice of the building she was on, only to realize that it was the green-haired man running towards the top of the building at high speed, approaching the ex-heroine. How did he do all that? Flashback. Izuku was still running in circles with the smokescreen activated. Izuku, annoyed. Shit. I have to escape or capture her. Any opinion is still wrong. And worse. I have to keep dodging the constant bullets that almost hit me, he thought, still running in circles. The boy kept thinking about what to do until he had to dodge another bullet that appeared from another direction. Izuku, surprised. But what, someone else is with her? No. If that were the case, the other person would have already appeared or something. So. Damn it. Why didn't I think of that before? He thought IFAFO sent it. It was obvious it would give him an extra quirk, which would explain why he was able to shoot from another direction, he thought. Izuku continued to let the woman continue shooting so he could locate her, which worked, so he took advantage of what was left of the smokescreen to cover himself and reach the building where the ex-heroine was. Izuku, serious. Okay. I hope this works. Gear shift, don't let me down, he thought. After thinking about that, he started activating the FA Jin plus power accumulation to 250% plus gear shift. With all this I get great acceleration to the point of being able to run on walls as if they were floors, and with this done I can ambush the woman. End of flashback. With the ambush successful, the boy fired a black whip towards the ends of the building to look like a huge slingshot to go towards the woman to attack her. The woman in response activated her quirk aiming at him and a second later shot him, but the boy was able to dodge it thanks to the danger sensor. Izuku, Serio, Manchester. Smash! I scream, kicking Lady Nagant's arm and stealing her weapon. Izuku's kick generated a large air current, causing the ex-heroine to fall from the building. The woman was planning to use her second quirk, but the green-haired man used his black whip to catch her, saving her. Izuku also convinced Lady Nagant to unite the heroes. Kana, quiet. Kurai Atami, you may be a vigilante, but you have the spirit of a true hero. I would have continued talking if it hadn't literally exploded. The black whip holding the ex-heroine broke, causing her to fall again. The green-haired man activated power accumulation 300% plus gear shift plus float to save the woman in the last second of the fall. A while later, Endeavor, Hawks and Melissa arrived at the scene. The ex-heroine, before falling unconscious, said everything she knew about AFO, and then the feathered hero took the woman to heal her wounds. Days later, Izuku faced again an assassin who was after him and Melissa, but he defeated him very easily. Unfortunately, he had no more information about AFO. Also, these days he stopped seeing Eri but gave her one last letter saying that it was dangerous for her and for him to see each other since villains like Overhaul could use her among other things, etc. Not only that, but he hasn't taken a break and he also didn't contact the heroes and Melissa. Currently, the boy was facing a villain capable of manipulating other people's bodies, Dictator, which had a great complication since he used the people at his disposal as human shields. Izuku was thinking about how to defeat the villain until he was knocked out by Bakugo, who had recently arrived at the place. Bakugo, serious, hey guys. I found Izuku, he said through his communicator. At this, the students of Class 1A, including Melissa, began to arrive towards where the green-haired boy was. Izuku, serious, what are you doing here? Asked. Melissa, we're worried about you, mainly me. He said, taking a step forward. Please Izuku, come back to Ua, I already did and I understood I couldn't fight AFO alone. Please come back, said Izuku. Serious Melissa, I'm so sorry but I can't do that. He couldn't return to UA, said Melissa. We knew you were going to refuse, so they allowed us to use our quirks to catch you and bring you safely to UA, he said, activating the OFA, taking out sky blue rays. Izuku, serious, thanks Melissa, thanks Katsuki, thanks guys. for coming here, said. After saying that, the green-haired boy activated the smoke screen to distract them. The boys in response, Bakugo used an explosion to dissipate the smoke, but when the smoke went away there was no one. The blonde looked up where he saw the green-haired boy. Bakugo, series catch. Shout. At this the students began to chase Izuku. Most of the students followed him from below, but people like Melissa, Bakugo and Todoroki followed him from above. Izuku, serious, I already told you. I can't go back, he said, firing a whip at Bakugo in his eyes to temporarily blind him. The blonde noticed Izuku's intentions, so he used an explosion to avoid the black whip from hitting his eyes. Melissa used her black whip to catch him, but the green-haired man was able to dodge this thanks to the danger sensor and took Melissa's black whip and then began to spin in circles at high speed and then throw her far away, and to make sure she doesn't follow him, he shot the girl with his black whip to immobilize her. The green-haired boy began to be surrounded by a horde of birds. This is due to the shy boy of the class Kota. Izuku used the accumulation of power at 20% and did a Delaware smash air force towards some birds that had to move away to avoid the attack, giving the green-haired boy free space to get out of there. The adhesive tape boy, Zero, used his quirk, taking Izuku's legs and then threw him towards Tokiyami and Dark Shadow. The latter threw Izuku towards a building where he was caught by a machine created by Yaoyorozu. Izuku, serious, what is this? He whispered in the form of a question, which the girl heard. Yaoyorozu would be, it's a machine to make you sleep and take you safely, said. The machine began to take effect on Izuku, slowly beginning to fall asleep, but before this he was able to say something else. Izuku, tired, Karen. You know what to do. He whispered, slowly falling asleep. Karen calmly, yes sir, activating the suit's autopilot, said. While Izuku was asleep, his mask, on the eye part, was covered by a crystal, which seconds later two green lights came out looking like the boy's eyes. Karen, calm, autopilot engaged, said. Now Karen was the one controlling the suit. She activated the power accumulation to 100%, giving a powerful punch to the machine to get out. When it was time to leave, Kaminari grabbed it to prevent it from escaping. But Karen just grabbed Kaminari and knocked him down, then shot a black whip at Kaminari, leaving him stuck to the ground. He knocked down Kaminari the same way Izuku knocked down Bakugo in their first fight against him in the anime and manga. Karen left the building, then used the black whip as a slingshot plus 300% power buildup plus gear shift to shoot out of the building to try to escape. As a last resort, the students used their quirks to try to get Izuku. Karen. They did the same thing as in canon to catch Izuku when he tried to escape, just add Melissa with those who were in the air. Iida used himself as a human shield for Melissa, and she replicated Izuku's Delaware smash air force at 45% with her fingers to propel herself further and finally reach Izuku and take his hands. Melissa, sad, please come back to us, come back for Eri, come back. For me, said. Karen, calm, I'm sorry Miss Shield, but Mr. Izuku fell asleep because of Miss Yaoyorozu's machine, and before falling asleep he told me that he would activate the suit's autopilot. And to protect him, he said out loud, looking at the blonde. Melissa, sad, please, if you really want to protect Izuku, let us take him to Ua, said. The AI remained silent until she came to a conclusion. Karen, calm, he gave me the order to protect him, so I think the best way to protect him in these circumstances now is to take him to the Ua, I said, cheering up Melissa, disabling autopilot. He said before turning off the lights what looked like eyes. With everything sorted out, Melissa gently carried Izuku and then calmly lowered him down with her float quirk. Then the blonde explained to them that Izuku fell asleep and that what they saw was Karen checking Izuku's suit. In the end, they took the green-haired boy safely to the UA. The people currently sheltering at the UA would have refused if it weren't for the same thing happening to them with Melissa, so it was easier to take him to their dorm. The next day, Izuku was slowly waking up. When he fully opened his eyes he realized he was in his room, and when he was about to get up he felt something was stopping him. The moment he saw who it was he realized it was Eri and Melissa, who were hugging him while they were asleep. Eri, sad, Dad. Don't tell me, he said in his sleep, still hugging Izuku. This made Izuku feel very bad for abandoning his daughter in that form. He also saw his girlfriend, who seemed to also have the same expression as he did while she was asleep. The boy, seeing this, hugged both of them to calm them down, which worked. Izuku, regretful, I'm sorry Eri, I'm sorry Melissa. I really was an idiot, right mom? He thought looking at the ceiling. The boy fell asleep again, but this time he slept more peacefully. Hours later, the green-haired boy woke up again and noticed that there was no one there. A few seconds later the door opened revealing Melissa, Eri and their aunt, who was holding a tray of food. Seeing Izuku awake, they approached him and gave him a hug, although Mitsuki first placed the food tray on Izuku's desk. After a long scolding from the three of them towards the green-haired boy, they were happy that Izuku was back and began to chat. And when Izuku spoke to Bakugo, he wanted to kill him for believing himself better than him by wanting to do everything alone, according to the blonde. Days later, these days after the green-haired man was able to prevent Bakugo from killing him, the boys from Class 1A urgently took him to the showers where they threw Izuku into the water to bathe. Afterwards, Class 1A was in charge of socializing as well as strengthening themselves, where also thanks to Izuku, with his experience in fighting villains and his quirk notebooks, he was able to advise Class 1A in different ways. But the green-haired boy could also notice the strange behavior of one of the students, and that was the blonde with a French accent, Aoyama. One day out of curiosity he decided to follow him to see what was happening to him, and he also discovered that he was not the only one who had suspicions about the boy, since he discovered that the invisible girl, Hagakure, was following him, so they both followed the blonde. When they arrived at the forest that was in the UA and saw him talking to his parents. Aoyama, desperate, I thought that after AFO's capture I could be happy again, fulfill my dream of becoming a hero, and that you all would be free of him. But I was wrong. Dad, Mom, I don't want to lose you, said Aoyama, desperate, please Yuga. I was going to say something else until I heard a branch break. Protect us. Grito Mirando and Izuku and Hagakure. They captured Aoyama, and Melissa was the one who told Aoyama that he could still be a hero. With all this, the students now decided to get serious about the situation they were in. The green-haired man, on the other hand, decided to go to the support workshop to repair his previous suit while being accompanied by Melissa. Izuku, seriously, I feel a kind of déjà vu, he thought, and then opened the door to then receive an explosion. At the door of the workshop a lot of smoke came out, making it difficult for the blonde to see if her boyfriend was okay. The smoke began to shoot up slowly, and when it completely went away she could see a pink-haired girl, Hatsume, who was crushing the green-haired boy with her breasts. Izuku had a serious face with all this, until he remembered that his girlfriend was there watching everything, and with this in mind he got very nervous, as he began to feel how the blonde who had a calm look emanated a murderous aura. The green-haired boy quickly yelled at Hatsume to get off of him. The pink-haired girl completely ignored the blonde but listened to the green-haired boy. Izuku, annoyed, I wish I had that danger sensor with me all the time, he thought. Hatsume, happy, it's been a long time since you came back to the Midoriya workshop, he said, and then noticed Melissa. Hello. Who were you? Asked Melissa, calm. I'm Izuku's girlfriend. My name is Melissa, he said with a calm smile, but it still emanated the murderous aura. Hatsume, happy, I see. Congratulations, he said, still ignoring Melissa's aura. Well, if that's all, I have to get back to the workshop, he said to enter the workshop. Izuku, indifferent, I forgot she's like that. Anyway, we're just here so I can repair and improve my previous suit, he said, making Hatsume stop in his tracks. I didn't have to open my mouth. He was interrupted by Hatsume. Hatsume, excited, upgrade your suit, she said, approaching Izuku's face, but he moved her away from him by a few centimeters. Please Midoriya. Let me help you, said Izuku, indifferent, I already have Melissa for that, he said, pointing at Melissa. Melissa, calm. Yes, she has me for that, said Hatsume, a little annoyed. Since he said, puffing out his cheeks, just come into the workshop, but don't touch my cute babies, he said, entering the workshop. The green-haired boy and the blonde began to repair Izuku's suit and then implanted Izuku's reactor into the suit. In the process, they also took charge of repairing the nanobots so that they would be of use to them in the future. The suit they repaired is the same one Izuku wore at the beginning of the World Heroes movie. With all this, The green-haired boy began training with Class 1A to become stronger and better use his new suit, although sometimes he had to restrain himself so as not to destroy the training gym or kill a student by mistake. They also convinced Shinso to use his brainwashing of Aoyama's parents to ambush a foe. While those days they were preparing for the ambush, the small Midoriya family Izuku, Eri and Melissa were sitting on a bench eating caramel apples. Izuku, a little serious, "I'm really worried about what might happen in the upcoming fight," he said while looking at the sky while eating the caramel apple. Melissa, "Worried, me too, but whatever it is, we're going to face it," he said, taking Izuku's hand, and with his other hand Eri eyes together he said with a small smile. Eri, a little worried, "Mom, Dad, everything will end well, right?" asked Melissa. "Calm down, yes, Manzanita," he said, stroking Eri's head. Izuku, a little confused, "Manzanita? That sounds nice," he thought. Afterwards they went to visit the Bakugo family. They also went to visit All Might, although Izuku didn't want to. He ended up accepting at Melissa's request, and then they spent as much time as possible with Eri before the big ambush that was approaching. With the villains. "Calm," he informed us, Aoyama's parents, "that we should meet tomorrow," said. Dabi, "Serious, it seems like a cheat to me," said. Calm, "They were telling the truth, and I know when someone is lying," said. The next day, Aoyama, Melissa, and Izuku were chatting outside Ua. Aoyama's explanation is the same as the manga, just include Melissa. Once Aoyama finished speaking, AFO appeared behind him floating. AFO, "Happy, good job bringing these idiots here," Aoyama said, smiling like crazy. Izuku, angry. Aoyama, "Bastard," said. Melissa, hysterical, "We trust you," said. The blonde just remained silent, beginning to tremble in fear until he turned to see AFO and then shot him with his laser, doing minimal damage but creating a lot of smoke in the place, covering everyone. AFO, "Serious, damn brat," said. Izuku, "Serious, I really can't believe it'll work," he said, still with the smoke. Melissa, would be, "Well done," Aoyama said. AFO, "Serious, it doesn't matter, I was still expecting something like that to happen, so," he said, using one of his quirks to start making all the other villains appear. "I came with someone just in case," said. Izuku, "Serious, how curious," S2 said as they used Kurogiri's quirk where all the available heroes appeared. The same as those in the canon. And so both sides began a great battle where each one broke their limits. But we will only focus on the fight between the symbol of evil and the couple. The blonde and the green-haired man synchronized perfectly when attacking the villain, but he managed to fight both of them at the same time. The symbol of evil, fed up with this, decided to take out several thorns from his body that were heading towards the couple. They began to use OFA 50%, power accumulation 100% plus float plus danger sensor to dodge the thorns, but all this was a distraction from AFO, and then he shot them at the same time with a full power air attack, pushing them away and punched the boy in the face, sending him crashing to the ground, creating a large crater. AFO went at high speed towards the green-haired boy to crush his head with the supreme combination of quirks. Fortunately the boy was barely able to dodge the attack thanks to the danger sensor. AFO, "Serious, I don't understand how a pathetic quirkless has given me problems," said. Izuku, cold. "He didn't say anything." AFO, mockingly, "What's wrong? Does that bother you?" He was interrupted when he received a punch from Melissa. The green-haired man took advantage of this to counterattack the villain by activating the accumulation of power at 300% in his legs and kicked both legs towards the villain's chin. With this attack he sent himself a few meters high. The boy took advantage of this by using gearshift plus 300% power accumulation plus FA Jin plus float to spin and give more power to his next punch. The blow was so strong that it broke the villain's helmet and sent him flying towards several buildings. Izuku didn't stop there and followed the villain with the accumulation of power 300% plus float plus gearshift. The moment he was more than him, he attacked him again, pushing most of them away. Melissa was only in charge of following them to see where they were going until Izuku looked behind him, noticing the blonde. Izuku, "Serious, it's your turn, Melissa," he said while shooting his black whip at the girl so that she takes it and the boy throws her with all his strength, propelling her towards the villain. The girl used her black whip to wrap around AFO and used FA Jin plus gearshift plus OFA 100% to deliver a flurry of blows at high speed. With the heroes, they were in charge of the Nomu's army and the other members of the League of Villains. Everything seemed under control until Shigaraki arrived. Shigaraki changed the entire course of the battle in less than a second, giving him a huge disadvantage, and to make matters worse, Gigantomachia was back. With AFO and partner. AFO was getting up from the floor while slowly recovering from the injuries he received from the young couple. Izuku called AFO, "It's time for you to give up, you're finished, the fight is over," said. AFO, mocking, "Really? Ha 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 ha, no, 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 no Midoriya, the fight isn't over," said. Melissa was confused by that comment until she heard small creaks that gradually intensified until the danger sensor of both boys were activated at the same time, so they took a big jump and stayed in the air using float, where they could see a large trail of destruction that the buildings that were nearby were made of rubble and had signs of being disintegrated. AFO, "Crazy, the real fight begins now. Don't you believe it, Shigaraki?" he said with a crazy smile looking at his successor, possessed. Shigaraki, "Crazy, that's right, Master," he said, smiling in the same way as AFO. Faced with this small revelation, the two boys had different reactions. Melissa was very little nervous but determined, and Izuku was annoyed at having to fight someone as annoying as the symbol of evil. Izuku, annoyed, long sighed. "Desperate times, desperate measures," said Karen. "Put on some music to deal with my stress." Whisper. Karen calmly, "Yes sir," he obeyed. At this, music began to play on Izuku's mask. "Honestly, this was the song that inspired me to make this chapter, plus I thought it would be good." Izuku looked at Melissa and they both nodded, knowing what they had to do. Melissa once again activated the OFA at 100%, where her hair, eyes and rays that came out turned gold. Izuku activated the power buildup at 500% plus black whip for arms. There was a brief silence between the four until suddenly they launched into the attack. The boy went towards the symbol of evil to punch it, but he already knew this, so he counterattacked in the same way as him, making both fists collide with each other, creating a large gust of wind. Melissa. The girl took care of Shigaraki using mostly the smashes she knew from All Might and some from Izuku. In one of his attacks, Shigaraki almost touched her with his disintegration quirk activated. Fortunately, the girl was barely able to dodge this with the danger sensor. Shigaraki was in charge of activating the quirks he had at his disposal, including air cannon, limb spring, strength boost, and black thorns. The disintegrator villain used the air cannon for long-range attacks to distract the girl, then combined limb spring plus strength increase to counterattack the girl, where she began to have difficulties dodging these attacks until one of them hit her, sending her towards a building, destroying it on the spot. The girl got up a little sore and looked at Shigaraki with a serious look, then activated float plus OFA 100 plus FA Jin plus gearshift plus black whip like a slingshot. At the moment of combining all this, all that could be seen was a golden light approaching Shigaraki at great speed, and in less than a second, Melissa appeared in front of Shigaraki. Melissa would be, "Thanks for showing me this, Izuku," he thought. Street. Lewis. Smash. I scream, kicking Shigaraki in the face. Back with the green-haired guy. He found it difficult to fight the symbol of evil, for every time he tried to increase his AFO power it seemed to do the same thing, so it was also clear how slowly he was being overcome. Izuku decided to step away for a few moments to think of a little strategy. AFO, mocking, "What's wrong? Why are you walking away? Now you're afraid of me, knowing my true power?" asked Izuku. Serio. He remained silent, looking at different places until he noticed some buildings. AFO, "Seriously, you ignore me? Well, I'll teach you to respect me," he said, to run at high speed towards Izuku to punch him. The boy activated power acculturation 300% plus float plus gearshift plus danger sensor, and with this he managed to dodge the attack from which a large gust of air came out. The green-haired boy, still in the air, went in the direction of a skyscraper where he activated his black whip, surrounding the entire building with it. AFO did not give importance to this until he realized that the green-haired boy also covered his arms with a black whip, and the boy used the accumulation of power at 1000%, where Izuku broke his bones a little because of that, but with that force he was able to tear the building off the ground and then throw it towards AFO, which hit him squarely. Izuku didn't stop, and still retaining 1000% of the power accumulation, with the black whips he headed at high speed towards the symbol of evil. Izuku, serious and a little sore, I haven't used this attack since I went to that island, but I hope it works. Also, since I don't have the OFA, I don't know if it's as effective. He thought, and then covered his right leg with a black whip and started doing somersaults at high speed. Improvised movement with a new name. He thought Black Ring. Smash. I scream, kicking the villain in the face with my axe, burying him in the ground and creating a large crater in the process. The green-haired guard thought his fight was over until he saw how AFO was slowly regenerating. AFO, serious, not bad Midoriya. But it's my turn, he said, activating his supreme quirk combination. Before with Melissa, she was fighting against Shigaraki in the air where they exchanged blows at high speed where neither seemed to hold back, even though the girl was breaking her bones each time, plus she had a black whip on her arms to avoid less damage, but that mattered little to her now. Melissa would be black. Smash. I scream, hitting Shigaraki in the abdomen, making him spit and sending him flying higher. Melissa used her black whip to wrap it around Shigaraki's legs and then slam him against the ground with all her strength. With this attack, Melissa approached the disintegrating villain to see how he was and saw that he was knocked out with his eyes white and a little blood and saliva coming out of his mouth. She then took charge of capturing him by putting many black whips on him to immobilize him. Melissa, sore and a little tired, long sigh. Well, now I must go with Izuku, he thought, watching as Izuku threw the skyscraper towards AFO. With gearshift active plus OFA 100% plus float heading towards Izuku and AFO's fight. With Izuku and AFO, they were in charge of attacking with everything they had, creating a crater in the place until the symbol of evil attacked with one hand, but the boy could barely stop him. The villain tried to use his other hand, but the boy stopped him again, turning it into a fight of resistance. AFO, Bolt, do you really think you can win with your toys? Asked Hayes. Doubled your size. I can multiply my strength whenever I want. You're going to fall, said Izuku, serio. The reactor in his suit began to glow slowly until he released an energy blast, hitting the villain full on. Melissa arrived and saw how Izuku attacked the evil symbol. It flew away and the girl approached her boyfriend, who noticed her presence. Izuku, serious. Melissa. What happened to Shigaraki? Asked Melissa, serious and a little tired. Don't worry about him. I defeated him and used the black whip to immobilize him. He explained. Izuku, calm and serious. Sigh. It's okay. I'm glad you're okay. It was interrupted until the danger sensor of both was activated. Both of them took care to step aside where they could avoid a great moment of energy that was seen to cause a great trail of destruction. AFO, serious. Well, what a shame Shigaraki couldn't defeat you. My successor really has a lot to learn. For now I'll take care of you, then All Might and at the end of the world. He said with a crazy smile until he heard a small laugh from the green-haired man. Izuku, mockingly and seriously, you talk too much, you know. Also, don't be so boastful. You're over 100 and you haven't even gotten any of those things. He said mockingly and then returned to his serious attitude. Melissa, serious. We'll finish you off once and for all. He said, getting into a fighting stance. AFO, serious. Well, let this fight decide the fate of the world, said. AFO was the first to attack, where the boys stopped the attack with a serious look. And both returned the attack at the same time, which pushed the villain away. Izuku threw his black whip towards the villain to reach him. The green-haired man achieved this and pulled with great force. With the accumulation of power at 500%, the black whip towards himself, where Melissa got in the middle to attack AFO again by punching him in the stomach, making him spit a little. But he only smiled like crazy because he took advantage of the proximity to turn his left arm in the supreme quirk combination to counterattack in the same way that the girl did. Thanks to the danger sensor, the girl was able to block the attack with her arms in the shape of an X with the OFA 100% plus black whip for the arms. But the attack did push her away from the place, in addition to slightly breaking the bones of her arms due to the force of the attack. Izuku seeing this got upset, so he looked at Afo, who was focused on Melissa, so he kicked the villain in the face as a distraction while Melissa returned. Izuku quickly activated the nanobots in his suit, which began to cover him completely in less than a second. With this done, he took the symbol of evil by the arms and began to spin in circles and then threw him upwards. Melissa came back and saw what Izuku did, so she used float plus gear shift, which Izuku also did, reaching the sky where the Afo was waiting for them with a smile. Both boys simply went at great speed towards the villain, where being very close to him Izuku dodged an air bullet aimed at his head and then became invisible. Afo used the ragdoll quirk to try to find him but only received a flurry of high-speed blows from the boy, invincible. Melissa was in charge of kicking and hitting the villain with the OFA 100% while the boy gathered all the nanobots in a single arm plus black whip plus accumulation of power at 1000%. The girl, realizing what he had planned, caught the villain with her black whip as best she could so that he would stay still to receive the attack. The boy understood his idea, so he went towards the symbol of evil, punching him in the abdomen where some crunches were heard from the villain, indicating that this attack had affected him enough, drawing blood and saliva from his mouth. This last thing enraged Afo a lot, so he threw many black thorns towards Izuku, who unfortunately couldn't dodge receiving the whole attack and being left with 4 thorns on his arms and legs, in addition to drawing a large amount of blood when the thorns were abruptly removed from his body. The boy was going to fall from a great height, but the villain grabbed his arm very tightly, making Izuku complain of pain. AFO, crazy. With these injuries you won't be able to use your toys for a while, so now you're useless. I scream and then drop him from the great height. Melissa was about to go help him, but the symbol of evil prevented her from doing so and began to fight against her as a distraction from saving Izuku. The green-haired man, on the other hand, besides having his arm more hurt because of AFO while falling from the great height, had small flashbacks of his life. Among them was him with his mother when he was a child with his All Might suit, how he saw her die, how he became a vigilante, when he met Melissa, saving Eri, etc., and slowly closed his eyes, implying that he was accepting his fate. But at the last moment someone was able to save him. The green-haired man immediately opened his eyes, and when he did, he was in a little shock. Izuku, en shock. All Might? Asked Toshinori, serious? Ha ha ha. Sorry for the delay, young man. But did you really think you and Melissa would be left with all the fun? Besides, what time am I well equipped? He said with a big smile that characterizes him. With that said, All Might carefully placed the green-haired boy on the ground and flew at high speed towards where Melissa and AFO were. Toshinori. Happy. Everything is fine, I shout, calling Melissa and AFO's attention. Because. I scream, punching AFO full force in the face. I'm here now. Shout. Melissa, surprised. Uncle Might. He thought All Might. What are you doing here? Asked. Toshinori. Happy. I just want to fight like All Might one last time. Said. AFO. Crazy. All Might. I'll finally be able to finish you. I scream with a crazy smile. Toshinori. Happy. Ha ha ha. Keep dreaming, all for one. Shout. All Might along with Melissa were in charge of fighting AFO, where the former symbol of peace used attacks inspired by Class 1A. The blonde used Jiro's sound waves for long-range attacks as well as Aoyama's laser. For melee attacks he was in charge of using a metallic tail and mechanical tentacles. To move better he used Uraraka and Ida's ability. AFO was in charge of launching air bullets in addition to the thorns to try to pierce All Might's armor, but he was unable to do any damage. Melissa took advantage of the entire fight between All Might and AFO to start activating the FA Jin on her arms and legs plus OFA 100% plus float plus gear shift. With the green-haired guy. On the other hand, Izuku's suit was self-repairing from the damage received previously while the boy was slowly losing blood but still remained conscious where he saw the fight that was in the air. Izuku, sore and annoyed, the suit better finish repairing itself quickly, he whispered with difficulty. In the fight, All Might activated his Todoroki attack, which allowed fire to come out of the palms of his hands, left hand, and a blast of ice, right hand, where the villain received the attack directly. The blonde saw this and without wasting time decided to attack with the aforementioned combination of quirks where the symbol of evil, in order not to be left behind, activated his forced activation quirk using all the regeneration quirks he had and, in the process, Activate the Supreme Quirk combination again to fight Melissa. Toshinori. Seriously. Melissa. Move. Shout. Melissa immediately obeyed the order, stepping aside. Why? Well, it turns out that All Might had activated a mechanism in her arms, from which large, round gloves appeared. At first glance, they resembled the gloves an explosive blonde used to enhance his explosions. Toshinori. Serio. Double howitzer impact, he screamed, throwing a huge explosion from his arms towards AFO. With this explosion he sent the villain crashing into a building, destroying it during the impact, trapping him in the rubble. After a few seconds he quickly got out of there and headed towards the blondes with the supreme combination of quirks. AFO acted fiercely at All Might's Armadura. The blonde had activated the Dark Shadow armor to be able to absorb the impact, which did little to help but could prevent worse damage. The villain continued attacking in the same way while All Might just defended himself as best he could, and his armor was beginning to fail due to the damage he had received, but this didn't matter much to the blonde because despite how the fight was going, he kept smiling. All Might saw an opening to attack and without wasting time he delivered a powerful punch to the villain's face, who had a deranged smile. Melissa saw how AFO's left arm was being covered in thorns to counterattack, so the girl quickly stopped the attack that was aimed at All Might's wound and in response gave an upward axe kick hitting him on the chin. The blonde activated the Tentacle Man, Shoji, function, giving himself additional arms to deliver a combo of blows to the villain who could only block, and when he got tired of the blows, he decided to take the mechanical arms and then tear them off the armor. AFO, serious. Well, it was fun playing with you once again, All Might, but the game is over, said. After saying that, he moved at an impressive speed, getting in front of Melissa and punching her in the face, causing her to crash to the floor, creating a cloud of dust. Toshinori. Worried. Melissa. He thought, looking where the girl fell. All Might was about to go check if he was okay, but because he was distracted he didn't realize that AFO was about to stab him in his wound. But this never happened because a certain green-haired man with his armor finally repaired had stopped the attack just in time. Izuku covered his right arm from all the nanobots plus 1000% power buildup plus black whip right arm to punch the symbol of evil. The nanobots quickly covered Izuku again. Izuku, serious, okay, all for one, I'm ready for round 2. Scream, activating black whip plus 1300% power build plus hover plus danger sensor plus FA Jin plus gear shift. Before with Izuku, the boy was just watching the fight in frustration at not being able to do anything about it until his suit was fully repaired. He saw the whole fight and what was happening, as well as seeing Melissa being hit and sent crashing to the ground. A few seconds after that the suit finished repairing itself and the first thing he did was approach the blonde. Izuku, worried, are you okay? Asked. Melissa, in pain, see, calm down, I just need to rest, see, please help me, I speak with difficulty. The boy just remained silent for a few moments to look up where All Might and AFO were, then he just nodded, activating the power buildup to 500% plus gear shift plus float plus FA Jin, where he arrived in time, stopping AFO's attack towards All Might. Present. Izuku, serious, very well, All Might, your suit better still work because I'm going to need your help, said. Toshinori, seriously, calm down, young man. Even though the armor suffered some damage, I can continue fighting, he said, smiling. Izuku, serious, okay, then go ahead. I shout for him and the blonde to go towards AFO. All Might and Izuku looked at each other, nodding their heads indicating that they knew what they had to do, so they separated, flying quickly in any direction to confuse the symbol of evil, even though he was very focused on taking time to hurt All Might with his thorns and air bullets. Thanks to this, Izuku was able to tackle the villain from above him and punch him in the face with a power buildup of 1300%. With this attack he was able to stun AFO long enough for All Might to attack him, starting a flurry of blows. AFO stepped back a bit and then punched where All Might's wound is, drawing some salt and blood. The blonde, in pain, counterattacked as if in response by hitting AFO's chest, where his heart is. Meanwhile with Melissa, she quickly got up and then activated OFA 100% plus gear shift plus float, shooting out at high speed. With Izuku, he wrapped the villain with his black whip to try to strangle him, but this did not work and he was about to attack him again, but Melissa got ahead of him by kicking the symbol of evil. Now the fight turned into a 3vs1 where AFO could barely keep up with them, having to use forced quirk activation several times to avoid problems. Izuku turned invisible plus gearshift plus FA Jin where he quickly moved towards the villain to punch AFO. The green-haired man removed his invisibility and approached Melissa and All Might. Izuku, serious, we have to finish him off with a single attack, said. Melissa, would be, how? Asked. Toshinori, serious, a kind of devastating attack, asked. Izuku, serious, yes, we just have to go further, he said, stretching his fist towards the blondes who understood the message. Toshinori, Melissa, serious plus ultra, they whispered, bumping fists with the green-haired man. Izuku began activating the accumulation of power in his right arm to 1,000,000%, in addition to having all the nanobots in his right arm plus Black Whip. For the arm, Melissa activated the OFA to 1,000,000% plus Black Whip, for her arm, and All Might activated all the power of her armor by charging it in her arm. AFO, serious, it seems that you already want to die. Well, I will grant you that with great pleasure. He smiled to see how she used the Supreme Quirk combination on her arm. But this time I'm going to make sure I kill them, he said, taking out a small syringe, the quirk-enhancing drug, which he quickly injected for a few seconds to take effect, and they saw how AFO's arm became more, acquiring a more monstrous shape than before. This mattered little to the three heroes since they were willing to end this once and for all, and they launched themselves towards the villain. AFO in response also launched himself towards them. Toshinori, Sirio, triple, he screamed with his arm ready to attack. Melissa, would be ultimate, he screamed with his arm ready to attack. Izuku, Sirio, smash, he screamed and launched his attack just like the blondes. AFO, serious, say goodbye now, Scream launched his attack. The attacks collided with each other, creating a powerful gust of air that shattered nearby buildings. It was very close to who would win, until the attack of the three ended up tearing off the villain's arm, surprising him. Izuku, serious, fuck you, he shouted with a challenging smile, and quickly the nanobots covered his arms, activating two energy cannons the size of AFO's arm. Final blast. Shout launching attack using both hands. This attack hit the villain full on, knocking him away and in the process beginning to disintegrate AFO, but he was able to say a few last words. AFO, angry, damn Midoriya. I scream as it disintegrates. The attack slowly began to slow down until no trace of the symbol of evil remained, implying that it was finally defeated for good. A few months later, the heroes won the battle. Some had their ups and downs, like the three who faced AFO, who suffered great damage and had to be taken to the hospital, even though with Eri's help they healed faster. Shigaraki was put in maximum security, but from time to time he received visits from Melissa, since she had promised Nana and the carriers that she was going to save him. The other villains were captured. Also, even though Izuku wasn't a hero, the principal forced him to take the exam to get a hero license and avoid problems with heroes, so yes, he became an official hero even though he continues doing his job as a vigilante. Now, Melissa, Izuku and Eri, she was playing with Izuku's hair, were walking through the dorms, watching through the window as some civilians began to pack their things to leave the US since they were informed that the fight was over and that their homes that were destroyed were already repaired. Izuku, calm, it's a relief that the war is over. Sigh, I really feared that we would not log it, said. Melissa, calmly, me too, but I'm glad all that's over, he said with a slight smile. Eri, calmly, Mom, Dad, can we go get some caramel apples? Please, he said with puppy dog eyes. Melissa, happy, of course. Sadeshe's so cute, he thought. Izuku, calm, okay, let's go, he said with a smile. Eri, happy, yay, he said as they walked. 1 year. A year has passed after so much time. At the moment, the green-haired boy was in the cemetery with Melissa and Eri, all holding hands, looking at Inko Midoriya's grave. Eri, Dad, Mirando and Izuku, what was Grandma Inko like? A bit sad. Izuku, she was someone wonderful. She believed in me, when I didn't even believe in myself. She gave me the strength and motivation to be strong. Becoming the vigilante who saved you, gave you a home and a family, but most importantly of all, she was my hero. He smiles nostalgically, shedding a few tears. Eri, Grandma Inko would be very happy to hear you say that, Dad. he smiled. Melissa. That's right. He smiled and kissed Izuku on the cheek. Izuku. They're right, wiping away tears. Well, it's time to go home. So the Midoriya family walked happily to their respective homes, but on the way they ran into a fire, so they went to see what was happening. The moment he arrived, the green-haired man had a kind of déjà vu. A terrible déjà vu. Since he was watching how the same mud villain who took his mother's life was suffocating a woman, and to make matters worse. Hero. Kid, stay away. It's dangerous, blocking the path of a child of approximately 8 years old. Child. You have to do something. That's my mom. Crying. Hero. I know, but our quirks are not suitable for this kind of situations, we have to wait in. Child. If you don't do it, my mom will die. Crying. Please do something. At this, Izuku saw himself reflected in the child, and before throwing himself into danger, he said something to Melissa. Izuku. Kuita and Eri, seriously. Now Izuku moved at an extraordinary speed, throwing himself into danger to save the child's mother, being noticed by the heroes. Hero. Boy, what do you think you're doing, Mirando and Izuku? Izuku. Ignoring the hero. I have to save her. As I was running in the direction, the villain revealed that he had a kind of futuristic watch on his right wrist. He touched the screen, began to write something, and in a matter of seconds the nanobots began to cover him, revealing his new suit, armor. Izuku, already in his suit, used his black whip to grab the woman, freeing her from the villain with relative ease and taking her away from danger. Izuku. Back then I didn't have the courage, the strength, or the resources to fight this villain, but now, it's different. I'm not that scared kid anymore, and I won't let him take another innocent person's life, seriously. Now, without the woman trapped by the villain, Izuku activated the power accumulation to 100%. Villain. What? Watching as Izuku threw his punch towards him, he could visualize All Might taking Izuku's place, All Might. After this, the villain received a great gust of wind that he could not bear and dissipated. Not only did it do so, but the gust of air caused a small rain, putting out the fire that was there. When everything calmed down, the nanobots returned to Izuku's watch and took charge of trapping the villain in a bottle like a certain blonde did. All the civilians started to celebrate, and Izuku could see how the mother seemed to be fine and was now happy talking to her son, and the boy pointed at Izuku. Then the woman approached the green-haired boy. Woman. My son told me you were the one who saved me. I'm so grateful. I was afraid I'd never see my son again, crying. Izuku. I was careless, he just did the right thing, he smiled. Hero. Hey brat. What was all that about? You used your quirk illegally. Angry. Izuku. Oh, really? Maybe we never met. He takes a card out of his pockets, but you can call me. Showing the hero his hero license, Kurai Atami. Seriously. Hero. Why, you're him. A little nervous Izuku. Yeah. I thought it was obvious, that you didn't see the tech suit? Hero. Sorry, I thought that was his quirk. Izuku. Yes, how is it? He gives him the bottle with the villain. Don't lose sight of her. Well, I'm leaving. Izuku walked away from the crowd to meet up with Melissa and Eri. Eri. Dad. You were amazing. Happy Izuku. Thank you, my little unicorn, caressing his daughter with great affection. Melissa. It was awesome, but, he smiles with a murderous aura. You should be more careful, you know? Izuku. Sure, honey, I'll be more careful. Melissa. Good. Now it's time to go home. Happy I made them katsudon. Izuku. Eri. Brilliant. Happy the Midoriya family finally went home happily, where they ate katsudon. Without a doubt, the green-haired boy's life used to be a mess, but the pain didn't matter because he always had his mother's support, even after her death. Thanks to that, he had the motivation to be a security guard, which gave him great things like a girlfriend, a daughter. But most importantly, a family that supported him. And that wasn't enough when it was revealed that Izuku is the first quirkless hero, motivating more quirkless to become heroes. Already Izuku. He showed it to everyone. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Now we will see you in the next video.